ladies and gentlemen, Jody Long has a commitment that she has to go to, but just so you know, Jody has served for nearly 10 years on the national and the local boards. She is actually just won I think it's first Asian American to win a daytime Emmy. So congratulations to you for that. But particular to this moment, Jody is your candidate, your membership first candidate for president for the Los Angeles locals. So, Jody, if you want to say some words before you have to go.
Sure. By the way, Sean, that's the first Asian American to win not only a daytime Emmy, but a primetime Emmy in either supporting or lead actor or actress category. So it's amazing, but also pretty astounding. No one has won that before. Anyway, I want to say welcome to everyone. It's so great I don't see your faces, but I see your names, and so many familiar names and so many new names that I don't know. I thought about it today and I did the math, and I've been a member of Legacy SAG since 77, 78, which means that's at least 42 or 43 years. So, oh my gosh, right? I started out in background. I moved up to under fives. I did after industrials in New York City, day players, guest stars, did some movies, and all the way up to some quite a few series regulars. And I guess you would say, why do I do this work? It's really because I am so grateful for the benefits and protections that the years in this union and all the people that came before me ensured that we had: our residuals, our health, and our pension plans. And I would really like to see the next generation benefit from the same protections that myself and all the people that I'm working with at Membership First, we know what that is. Our team, besides having so many years collectively working all the various contracts within our business, we also have a lot of years of experience in the boardrooms, which is really important right now because there's a lot of work to be done within SAG-AFTRA, and we need to hit the ground running. And I know more people will be talking about all the other issues that are on our platform, our slate, within our slate. But, one of the things I said to give the protections to the younger generation, but we also, those people that gave up so much, their residuals before 1960, to have their health care lessened for them, our seniors. We really need to help them, rehabilitate this. Oops, I'm hearing somebody else here. Whatever's gone on within our health plan. So I'm just going to say that there's so many other issues. And on a local issue, I really would like to address the self-taping issue and the casting sites that take a lot of money from our members. And what can we do about that to help us locally and our members? But thank you so much. I'm sorry I have a memorial service to go to in a little bit, but I'll stick around for as long as I can.
Thank you very much, Jody. Thank you for that. I am going to introduce someone now who is our candidate for Secretary Treasurer. I've known her since a long time. I've known her for a long time. Jolie Fisher is an extraordinarily talented person, stage and screen, singer, served on the national board, served on a lot of committees, and I'll let her say more about herself. But I just want to say, Jolie, watching you throughout this process over the last few months has really been kind of exciting because you have so much energy and so much gumption and passion and drive and thoughtfulness. And so I just I hope that, over the course of the next short period of time, everybody can know you as well as I know you.
Thanks, Sean. My heart is beating so hard. I'm like emotional today. Good afternoon, everyone. First, let me say, I hope that you are well and healthy and surviving in these extraordinary times. And if you have lost loved ones in this craziness, that my heart goes out to you. Happy Sunday, typically a day of rest, but I will not rest until you are reassured, until I have your confidence, and then in turn, your vote. I saw this this wild conversation with some of our opposition. It was on Instagram, and particularly my opponent, who is bright and is talented and is a survivor and an activist. And I'm so proud of anyone, of all of us who want to serve in this membership in any capacity. I really, truly am. And but the conversation went on to include that my opponent was brought in to replace the current Secretary Treasurer. And that's not exactly how it works, guys. So you, the membership, are the ones that are making that choice with your voice being heard with a vote. I am campaigning hard with expertise and experience and legacy. I've told you all before, if you haven't heard it, my mother, Connie Stevens, served as your Secretary Treasurer in the early 2000s, and it would be my honor to carry on the mantle and do the job as well as she did. We're not debating today, but I must debate the idea of what this job is. No, it is not taking meeting minutes and bean counting. And no, it is not being a figurehead or spreading the good word or steering towards initiatives, which are all really great and positive things. And I hope to do some of those things. But my belief is that the office of Secretary Treasurer involves stewardship of the financial solvency of the largest labor union in our industry. And my job will be to shore up financial gaps left by the current administration, a decade of leadership under Unite for Strength. My job will be to reevaluate and possibly redistribute the dues of our highest paid earners. That hasn't changed since 2012, guys. I want to re-engage the population of our membership and in making decisions for themselves. And yes, I would like to do a deep dive into the debacle that the health and pension plans have suffered. I want to put trust back in the trustees. I have strength of character. I am a mother to 5 incredible human beings, so I've got that job under my belt. I have the knowledge of the intricacy and specificity with which our union is run. The stakes have never been higher. Matthew Modine and I and the membership first slate will enter into negotiations ready to fight for you, for all the membership. And we need you to participate in a reasonable way. Studios are profiting at extraordinary rates, and we want that for all of you. Prosperity, protection, inclusion, safety on sets, great healthcare, and a pension upon retirement. And as my mother said when she walked in day one, let's open the books. I would like to introduce my running mate, the man who is running as your president for Membership First on our slate. He is no stranger to the boardroom, no stranger to his own boardrooms where he has gone to Washington and lobbied, and is an activist and is a father and a husband of 42 years, an incredible gentleman, my rock and my partner, Matthew Modine.
Thank you so much, Jolie. What a pleasure to see so many people here to join us to have a discussion today. I echo the sentiments and emotion and things that Jody said and Jolie as well. For many of you may not know that these are volunteer positions. You know, that we do this because we love our union. We understand the benefits that we inherited from those people who came before us. And in the 40 something years that I've been working in this profession, there was no greater moment in my life than when I became a SAG member. And those hard fought victories that the Legacy SAG provided were things that I didn't understand when I was young. And as I've grown older, you begin to really understand those hard-fought victories. You understand the sacrifice that people like Jolie's mother made, Connie Stevens, in order to provide us with residuals. There was a time when we did not have residuals, and they were fought for, and there were sacrifices made in order to provide those for our members today. What I've witnessed since the beginning of VHS tapes and then DVDs and cable and streaming is the loss of income for our members, the loss of privilege for our members. And when you're negotiating, you want to negotiate for labor peace. When you negotiate for labor peace, you have to ask yourself and think about who are we negotiating labor peace for? Are we negotiating on behalf of our members or the people that employ us? And what I feel has happened, especially in the last decade, is that we are kowtowing, that we are bending the knee to our employers. And, they are our employers, and we have to negotiate with them, but we don't have to give up things that we don't, that we had in order to make labor peace. So I wish that we were in a room together so that we could have this discussion. It seems so artificial to have this conversation where we can't feel one another, but this is the situation. That we're in these little Brady Bunch boxes and having to speak to each other. But as we move forward in this conversation today, I ask that everyone remember that we're human beings. We make mistakes. We're fallible. Some of us are parents. Some of us are husbands and wives. We have partners. But membership first, the only thing that we want to do, there's not a building that houses membership first. There's not a card that says that you're a member of membership first. There's no dues that anybody pays. What membership first is a group of people who want to make sure that the members of our union are receiving the benefits and the security that they have of being a member of this union. That's what we're here for. That's what we're fighting for, our members. Like Jolie, I began as a background performer. I've worked in commercials. I've been a day player. I've done voiceover work. I've done audiobooks. There's almost not one aspect of this union that I have not participated in some professional manner. I understand the members and I understand the struggles that each of them go through. And I just want to make sure that those members are taken care of, because that's what you do when you get older. You realize the blessings that you have, the gifts that you've been given, and as you get older, you realize the responsibility that you have to the members of our union and those members that are going to become members of our union in the future. And I want to provide for them. I want to provide for them the securities that I inherited. So my name is Matthew Modine, and I look forward to having a lovely conversation with each of you as we move forward through this next hour and a half.
Wonderful, Matthew. Thank you for that. I understand that, we are, as you said, volunteers and working actors. I know you're on location. Our next candidate that I want to introduce, I think has a work obligation. So I want to give her an opportunity to speak now in case she has to withdraw. Sheryl Lee Ralph, who is one of your two vice presidential candidates for the Los Angeles local, who I've known, I don't know if since 2002 or was it even earlier, 1998 or something, when we worked on a film together, and who's distinguished herself with an extraordinary career, both performing, but also as an advocate and an activist. And so allow me to introduce Sheryl Lee Ralph. you mute. You got to mute, Sheryl Lee.
Right, there we go. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. And that was a wonderful film that we did, way ahead of its time. To everybody that is joining us here on this Sunday afternoon, thank you. Because you see, believe it or not, you're the ones that we depend upon, because you're the ones that come in on a Sunday afternoon to sit, listen, meet each one of us. And we need each one of you to do what you're doing right now, which is get the information and spread the word. We need new voters to this process. We need younger voters. We need everybody that knows better, which would be all of us. I mean, look, I've been a member of SAG since I was 19 years old, which you will know is my entire life. Right. So we need you to spread the word about what we're doing. See, all of us here, like you, we want more and we want better. And we're tired of going into these negotiations feeling weak and looking like the small ones in the room. We're tired of that. We're tired of being the ones who in this city, if every other union can own their offices, why can't we? Why can't actors? We're tired of all of that. We're tired of everything we've had. And it hasn't been a whole lot, people. You heard, we haven't always had residuals. And quite as it's kept, residuals seem to be going away little by little. Well, listen, we want to hold on. We want to go into negotiations and not give up the little that we've got just to get a little bit more. We're always robbing Peter to pay Paul. Something's got to stop and something's got to be better for every level of member in the SAG-AFTRA union. Everybody's feeling the same crunch, the same pinch, and something's got to stop. I got involved because I realized, heck, before it got really bad, our health plan was dwindling down to next to nothing. And when the choice was made by the current leadership to X out the most vulnerable in our union in the time of a pandemic, give me a break. That means that none of us are safe in this whole thing, and we need brand new leadership. So to everybody that is here and listening, I thank you, because we're counting on you, because we're the warriors here, and we know that you're the ones who support the warriors, because you all are doing the warriors' work, and we need you. So when you go off today, please encourage 5, 10 other people to vote membership first, because membership really matters. And if you're a member, then you know that. Thank you. I'm Sheryl Lee Ralph, and I'm running for Vice President of the LA Local, along with David Jolliff. Yes, I am. Thank you.
Sheryl Lee, your message of expanding the voting pool is so it's just shocking in every democracy how low it is, but in our democracy, it's shocking. So you just mentioned your running mate, your fellow vice presidential running mate for the LA Local, and I think to round out our officer candidates on our panel, it's most appropriate to introduce someone who really needs no introduction to anybody who's been operating in the SAG-AFTRA orbit for any moment for the last 25 years. Having served on, well, you can rattle off the stats, but David Jolliff has been a mentor to me, and I really, you talk about historical memory. He's that and more. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present to you your additional vice presidential candidate for Los Angeles Local for membership first, David Jolliff.
Thanks, Sean. I mean, how lucky am I that I get to run with Jody Long as the Los Angeles Local President and Sheryl Lee as the other Vice President, and we have Matthew and Jolie for the national positions. I feel so honored to be here. Just quickly, my bona fides. I've been a member for 53 years. I've been a board member of SAG-AFTRA, now SAG-AFTRA for over 25 years. I was a national vice president of SAG for a couple of terms. I've been the Los Angeles vice president, along with Francis Fisher and Pat Richardson before that for the last 4 years. I've been a member of over 30 negotiating committees, from TV theatrical to commercials. I've co-chaired, I chaired and co-chaired those twice each. I've chaired 3 animation negotiations, dubbing, Nickelodeon, Netcode. I've been a member of many, many, many negotiating committees. So I've seen a lot. I have great concern on how we've been negotiating over the past 10 or 15 years. As Matthew talked about labor peace, we seem to be going into negotiations and trading equity for equity. In this last negotiation, we traded away $70 million worth of syndication residuals for the next 3 years for around $50 million in SVOD, which is Netflix, Amazon residuals. That's not my way of how we should be doing things. We need to be going into those negotiations with the people across the table who are not our enemy. They are our bargaining partners. I know people blanch at that term, but we're all in this together. But they need to know that that SAG-AFTRA can't be rolled. That we're going to go in there and we're going to be, we're going to be tough across the bargaining table. And what I've seen, the erosion in 2017, Jane and I were there. I don't know if you were on that one too in 17, Jody, but we went in there with a proposal to disavow the practice of producer's base. That was our proposal. And we came out codifying it, the complete opposite of what we went in to do. In the last negotiation, last year, there were so many things we didn't get, like under 20 minutes in the media, the nudity and sexual scene protections didn't go anywhere near what we should have gotten. Background people don't get notice. Intimacy coordinators aren't mandated when we work, a lot of things. So, there, unfortunately, and I say this with all sincerity, unfortunately, there are great differences between these two groups running. Great differences. And we will lay out what our philosophy is. I say to people, they say, well, listen, all these great gains and blah, blah, blah. And I say, how are your residuals lately? How are yours? And everyone goes, they're not so good. Well, that's, it's the proof is in the pudding. Don't believe me. Don't believe us. Believe your own residual checks. We're going to touch on things like the building and the pensions and all the other inequities that are going on. When you look in the voter guide, when you read the voting guide and you see my statement and Sheryl Lee's statement, you saw what we thought and what we think and the positions that we hold. Look at other candidates and see what they have to say. One of them had nothing to say. To me, that's not leadership. That's not showing what you stand for or where we're headed. You know where we in Membership First want to go. We will talk later on about the health plan and how that happened, why it happened, and the difference of opinion, which on who's responsible. But we'll talk about that later on. But I just wanted to say hi, guys. It's me, your old pal Dave Jolliff. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm really, really, the biggest thing is I'm honored to be here. It is my honor to try to serve and protect us all. Thanks so much, Sean. Thank you, Sheryl Lee. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, everybody. I'm so excited, and let's move forward.
Thank you, David. It's going to be good to get into our questions. But before we do, we have 2 other panelists who are running this cycle. I was going to say, with David, I said he requires no introduction for people who've been involved with the industry. These next 2 panelists also require no introduction for people who have been involved in SAG-AFTRA business. But for ceremony's sake, allow me to introduce first Jane Austen, who served on the LA local and national boards of both SAG-AFTRA and now SAG-AFTRA. For almost 20 years, it's okay that I say that, was also served as a secretary treasurer and a LA local president for 4 years. So really important positions of leadership and has incredible insight for us. Served on 7 TV theatrical contract negotiations and is right now running for the national board and the LA local board and also for LA delegates. So Jane, I know I could have said a lot more, but the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sean. And I'm going to try to be really brief just because I can't wait to get to hear the members' questions and the people that are on. But I want to thank everyone for being here today and taking time out of your Sunday. I have to tell you, I'm so excited. And Jolie told me that she was going to be running for Secretary Treasurer. And it was because there were so many things that I discovered, but because of the president that was in power, I had doors closed on me. So I'm really excited for Jolie to be in a spot that she'll be able to walk through those doorways that I was not able to. And boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot to share with that. I'm very excited that Matthew is running for president again. I'm sure a lot of you are probably thinking, I ran against him 2 years ago. And I had a long conversation before I made the decision to not run again this year. And it was because Matthew impressed me so much with the work that he did the last 2 years. And he rolled up his sleeves and he served on committees. And he really, really made the effort to learn the job. Because I have to tell you, being the president of the union is not an easy job. And you need to know and have experience, especially serving on the national board and serving on committees to really know, because there's so much work that needs to get done that this next president needs to hit the ground running. And when I first became Secretary Treasurer, it took me 6 months. And I'd served on the board for, 14, 15, however many years. And I still had to learn so much. So I'm looking forward to being any assistance that I can to Matthew. Please, if you didn't vote last time, vote this time and get your friends to vote. That's so important, because the last thing I want to mention is that, you know what, you guys, the union is you. It's not the boards. It's not the president. It's not the Secretary Treasurer. It's you, the members. And when you vote for who you think is going to take care of you, that is how you participate and your voice is heard. And it is so important to educate yourself of who these leaders are going to be that are going to take care of you and represent you. So that's all I had to say. So Jane Austen, I'm out.
That was good. All right. Our final panelist to introduce is a legend in my mind and my understanding. Emery Johnson, who told me that she was Legacy SAG's first African-American first vice president for 4 terms. Was also the first African-American recipient of the Ralph Morgan Award and spent 17 years as a board member advocating for fair wages and working conditions for all members. Especially, she wants people to know for those in protected groups, and is entering her 37th year as a professional actor. Ladies and gentlemen, Emery Johnson.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much. As already been stated, taking time out of your very busy schedule. I'm very happy to be with this wonderful group. I'm very happy to be campaigning for this terrific group, specifically for Matthew and for Jolie. We are facing difficult times, as has already been articulated. My specialty is advocating for those who've been marginalized and ignored, specifically performers of color, performers of a particular age, performers with disabilities, and performers who are still treated as second-class citizens with regard to their gender identity. So that is my specialty. That is what I am providing to this Membership First team. With regard to contract negotiations, I was on a fair share of negotiating teams. Under the fantastic leadership of President Alan Rosenberg, we were able to renegotiate the basic cable agreement, which hadn't been negotiated in 20 years. And there was no quid pro quo. We went in there prepared and we got what we needed without giving anything up. So I just want to assure you that under the leadership of Membership First, we are prepared. There are hundreds of years cumulative of experience in negotiations. for the benefit of all of our members. We don't have to give up in order to gain. We need to be respected as artists, which I think we're going to talk about more extensively. But please be assured, especially performers who have been marginalized because of systemic racism, please be assured that we will all on the membership first slate, but specifically those of us who've experienced the amount of racism and microaggression on sets, and I know Sheryl Lee knows exactly what I'm talking about, we are not going to be props in the boardroom. We are not going to be props to look like there's a wonderful Gap ad board where we have people of all shapes and sizes. We will continue to remind our leadership, including our own. We will continue to remind our membership that when our white performers get a cold, we die of the flu. And I hate to use that analogy during a horrible pandemic, but that also reflects what's going on with the pandemic. Those who are most marginalized carry the biggest burden. And Sheryl Lee and I and Jody and others are going to make sure that every conversation, every negotiation, every topic about fair wages and working conditions, we are going to remind everyone that we are going to be talking on behalf of everyone, especially those who've been historically marginalized based on bigotry, systemic racism, and microaggression based on race. Rest assured, we are going to be there for you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Emery. So I didn't say my name at the beginning. I'm Sean Aston. I'm also a candidate for the National Local Board and Delegate. My job is going to be to facilitate a conversation. And hopefully I have little to do or say, but I'm happy to help as the case arises. So if people have questions, please raise your hand on the raised hand function, and I'll see the order that people have their questions in, and we'll call on you. As Sean mentioned, we're going to try and observe a 2 to 3 minute soft clock. People should have the opportunity to express themselves and to place their questions. But we also want to give everyone, or as many people as possible, an opportunity to do that. So we'll keep on moving. So, okay. Powerful presentations, everyone. Let's go to our first question. I see Annie B. Annie B, if you could activate your camera.
Yes. Hello?
And state your question. Hi, we can hear you.
Hi. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you well.
Okay. Hi. How's everyone? Good afternoon to fellow members on the West Coast, and it's evening on the East Coast. And I just want to say thank you so much, everyone. The wonderful presentations. I myself, I am a delegate for New York, and I do know Sean. We spoke before, Sean Sharma. My question actually is, as myself as a New York delegate, what could I do to further the word? Because I feel that, the struggle is real. Absolutely, for all of us in this industry, for the health, just to get the benefits to what we need for each other, to make this work, to get this a strong union, because the struggle is there. What myself as a delegate would you recommend to get the word out?
So a couple of people occur to me. Matthew has a pretty strong connection to New York. Matthew, do you want to start, and then maybe DJ might have a thought?
Sure. Hi, Annie.
Hi.
Where do you live in the city?
Right now, actually, I'm currently in Toronto, visiting my mother. Yeah.
Oh, well.
But I am a New York delegate. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope everybody's well and healthy in this bizarre
Yeah, we're
time
okay in Canada, eh? We're okay here.
Yeah.
Roots in the boots,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our little Canadian humor there,
getting the word out is, we rely on social media. That's the easiest, cheapest way. It doesn't cost anything to be able to reach out to friends. If you have actor colleagues, to be able to contact 5 or 6 of them and ask them to each of them contact 5 or 6 people. It's like that old shampoo commercial. You tell 2 people, they tell 2 people, and it goes on exponentially, to be able to have a greater outreach. Our platform is available if anybody wonders what we believe in and what we're aspiring to fix and aspiring to accomplish is on the membershipfirst.com website, and you can go there and get all the information about the platform and any questions that we've as I say, that we're trying to address.
DJ, did you have any thought about delegate, what a delegate can do to make a difference?
Well, it's easy now with social media, and it's hard. I don't know if people are aware. You've gotten emails from both camps over the past week. That email that goes out nationally costs $5,500. It's very expensive to try to get the word out. Mailers are extremely expensive. They're about 70 cents a piece to get to you. So it's word of mouth, talking to your friends. We're doing the best we can to get the word out, monolithically from the group. We have sent mailers out to many, many members, and we did send out a national email. Matthew sent out an email to the locals in New York. Sheryl Lee, Jody, and myself sent out an email. Sheryl Lee, Jody, and myself sent out an email here to Los Angeles. It's just getting the word out. That's what it is. That's my advice.
So I would just add before going to the next question that, your own network of people, Annie, your own friends, your own colleagues, the people you've worked with, if you just share what you're doing and tell them why you're doing it, I find that the best leadership is by example. And it's extraordinary the ripple effect that can have when you are willing to, kind of disclose your own experience to others. And that's part of what we do as people who are going to represent you is put ourselves forward in that way. And also, making sure that people know they can communicate with you to get answers to their questions. And if you don't have them, you can help them find the right place to get those questions. It's just good union behavior, helping each other get access to information, and connecting people. So anyway, so thank you for that. We'll go on to, Jane.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one thing for Annie is that start the conversation when you're at work, when you're on set. Just, if you're sitting around at lunch or, if you're, in between scenes, just start the conversation of, hey, are you going to vote this election? Educate yourself. Or, say, I decided to become a delegate and get involved, or if people especially are complaining about the union, just start the conversation about involving more people and getting more people to participate. Because like what I said earlier, the union is yours. So thanks, John.
Yeah. And people might have things they think should be better about the union, and the convention is a place to put some of those ideas forward. So you can actually represent before you're even representing. You can hear people's questions and their comments and concerns, and you can bring them forward with you as a delegate. Okay, so moving on to Joshua Kaufman.
Hi, I'm Joshua Kaufman. I'm on the Young Performers Committee in the New York local. You guys were talking a little bit before about like derivative works and residuals. Very often nowadays, like new media work and short films are used under in order to sell sort of a larger project to either like start a Kickstarter or to have in order for it to be picked up by a major production company. These short films, at least in my case, are usually under contracts. That way, if the short film is sold, I would get paid residuals. But even though I'm doing the work, the short film itself isn't being sold. Something else is being sold off of it. And so I'm just kind of curious as to what your policies would be in handling a situation like that.
That's really interesting. Emery, you got a first thought?
This is a business. I think a lot of times people forget that, yes, we're artists, but we're artists and probably one of the largest importer and exporter of art. And that is what we do. I encourage anyone who wants to become independent, create their own independent projects. This Legacy Screen Actors Guild had a different policy. I'm sure it's similar to the policies now at SAG-AFTRA, but there are ways to do this. There, you can definitely get any actor, any performer can get it done. They just need their hand held to help through the process. So I believe Jolliff had a lot of experience in shepherding independence. Jane certainly did. She's done it herself. So you're talking to a team of people, and you're a delegate, I believe you said, or you will be a delegate. There is a whole team that can focus on this, get it done, but assist members who really want to be more than beholden to casting directors and producers. We can actually control a lot of it, a lot of our career.
Matthew, I know you've done projects like that. It's a really interesting concern, the idea that you would do a Kickstarter or do a short film, and then it would get sold, and then someone would go off and make a big movie or make a series, and the person who helped bring that into fruition isn't necessarily, it doesn't have a protected continuing interest in it. Do you have any thought about what the union might be able to do to help clarify that process? Or
yeah, first of all, thank you, Josh. When we put these small projects together, oftentimes they're done without any contract. And what I think it would be tremendously unfair to you and any performer that's working on a project, that you invest that time for no salary or a tiny salary to help that filmmaker bring a project to fruition. And then somebody sees it and goes, this is really terrific, but we need to hire an actor with a greater profile in order to get financing. And this project that you helped to create and become a possibility, that they then cast someone else. I think it's quite common. It happens a lot in the theater in New York, with people that it happened to my aunt, was a member of Equity and a member of the Screen Actors Guild. And she was in Paint Your Wagon, and she lost the movie role to Shirley Jones. It happens. It happened. So it would be wonderful if you could find the language, through a friend. So when you're working on those kind of contracts, that you can put into that language, that should the film become developed, that you be rewarded for that in some fashion or some form, that would come under the guidance of a Screen Actors Guild contract. Does that sound reasonable? I see Emery raising her hand to comment on my comment.
Go ahead, Emery.
It is, Matthew's completely correct. The union can do only so much. I mean, sometimes it's the artistic privilege of a producer to pick and choose who they'd like to continue the role. You could, and I've done it in the past, had it included into my personal agreement with the project. So there are ways to protect yourself, albeit very, very difficult because artistic freedom, but there are ways that you as an individual through your independent negotiations can maybe provide more firewalls for you.
Got it. Thank you.
May I say something? As a delegate, might it behoove us to put forth some sort of resolution in the convention to make this, to construct this language to go into a contract? So all these young performers that are delegates, that's exactly what you can do, is come to convention and put forth a resolution saying that you would like this language put into some sort of a contract, that you participate in the final product, even if you were just involved in the initial project.
And we can certainly do a resolution to partner with our franchise agents to have a conversation on how this type of language can be promulgated in a realistic way in individuals' contracts of union covered films.
Got it.
Was that helpful, Joshua?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Thank you so much.
Good. So I see Justin Alexio. Justin.
Can you hear me? It's not letting me start my video, but
We can hear you though.
okay. Got a couple questions, so I'll break them up and jump back into the queue. But my first two questions. So first question is, as I think I read through the whole platform for Membership First, and you guys really want transparency, because I have no idea who votes for what in these national board meetings. And so as a Membership First sort of strategy, wondering, does everyone step in line, and vote for a single cause, or do people vote their conscience? And my second question is in regard to buying a building. You said we just renewed a lease, or we didn't, UFS did. And I think we're locked in to 2035. And so I'm wondering if that's already been, the lease has been renewed, what can even be done? Is it breaking the lease? And I'm also wondering, in regards to a building, is Membership First open to downsizing? Because as with COVID, everyone is kind of downsizing. I don't really foresee, I think post-COVID world is going to be more digital. And I just don't know if we need a big building anymore. And so I'm wondering, is it just, will you downsize? Are you open to that? And that's my two questions.
Well, I've heard Matthew speak very passionately about this. So let Matthew start, and then David about the second bit. But Matthew, when it comes to transparency in the boardroom and voting as a block, what's your thought?
Well, thank you, Justin. It is something that I'd like to see change. I know that there's some legal aspects to transparency in the boardroom and how people vote. But I believe, because we are elected officials, that the membership should have an opportunity to know who voted, against intimacy coordinators, who voted for intimacy coordinators, who votes for the protections for our members, and who votes against them. I believe that if it were a recorded vote, which I think Legacy SAG had a recorded vote, will it get a nod from somebody that knows that yes or no? That nobody's going to. If the vote were recorded, I think that people in our boardrooms would vote quite differently. You might also be surprised to know that with these positions, these elected positions, there's no oath that the members take to the members that says that they understand the fiduciary responsibilities that they have to the members. That if there was an oath that people took when they become members of the local or national board, to always do what's best for the members and not do what's best for a faction, I think that you'd change the culture of our union, and it would be a first great step in erasing this absurd division that exists within our union. It is antithetical to the whole concept of union, that there should be these two sides. There can be differences of opinion, and that's fantastic, because we can have a robust conversation about what is good and right and what's best for the members. But to vote a party line that may or may not be in the interest of the membership is something that has no place in our boardrooms. Just speakly, because I know David has his hand up to talk about the building. I located a couple of years ago some disused elementary and middle schools in the San Fernando Valley that we could move our offices to. This would be before COVID, and which we could get for almost nothing. And for the several years that we could house our staff at an elementary school or middle school, we'd be able to save so much money looking for a building, or perhaps even building a building that would better serve our members, to have facilities for our members, to have a theater for special screenings, to have, there's wonderful things that we could do if we didn't spend $6 million a year renting a building and giving away money that we'll never get back. not building equity. But thanks for your question, Justin, and I'll let David answer the rest about the building.
I just want to focus on voting for a second, David. I think you and I and other Legacy SAG people remember this. I personally believe that all of our votes, except for votes that deal with negotiations and votes that deal with hiring and firing and votes that deal with lawsuits, all other votes should be open to the public. Our minutes should be accessible to the public. And
Yes.
that is the greatest level of transparency. So when we are elected, we will strongly advocate that every member will have access to our voting habits and our minutes, as long as we are not exposing sensitive negotiation material, hiring material, or other legal issues that must remain in executive session.
Thank you. Justin, two quick things. To the transparency and all of that. It was myself and Steve Barr in 2002, 3, or 4, in there somewhere. We were looking at each other and we said, if members could see how their board members are acting in this room right now and how they're voting against their best interests, they'd be run out on a rail. So in Los Angeles, we made the motion, and now it is practice. All of our board meetings in Los Angeles are open. You can come and attend our board meetings. We have nothing to hide. Okay? So that's how we feel about transparency. You said 2035, the lease is until 2032. The argument was made that, we can't buy a building because, we're not in a financial secure position now to get into any long-term debt. To which point we said, hold on a second. You couldn't sign a $50 or $60 million mortgage, but you can sign a $50 or $60 million lease. So that makes no sense to us. Now, but so that you do understand that we can get out of the lease if we can sublet it for the same or more money. We could sublet it at a loss, but we do have the option to sublease at a 50-50 share of whatever the excess profit would be on a sublease. And it's not a building, by the way, it's 4 floors. And yes, the DGA, the WGA, IATSE, Teamsters 399, the musicians, even our own SAG-AFTRA P&H own their offices. So it is, I saw something somewhere on social media where a board member actually said, a current board member said, we shouldn't be buying a building. We're not in the real estate business. Again, like I said in my opening statement, there are clear, distinct differences between these two groups. So we feel very strongly that we should be building equity in our office space. Thank you.
And if I may add to that, when I was Secretary Treasurer, we actually did do a search for a building, and there was 5 or 6 buildings that were presented to the Finance Committee, and all of them were horrible. They were like in downtown, East LA, rundown buildings. They didn't have any parking, only to find out, because I'm on the executive committee for the LA County Federation of Labor, they're buying a second building. And the requirements on this second building that they're buying and the price of it would have been perfect for SAG-AFTRA. It had the parking, it had the square feet, it wasn't subleased already. We could have just moved in. And I was like, So that was like, why were we only presented with these options instead of other options also? So that was just.
Jane, can I also add that when my mom was Secretary Treasurer, that she did do a real estate search with David and Joe and ran around all over and did find a lot that was in need of repair. And then we were told we were not in the real estate business. And now that lot is Netflix. So it was something of value that could have been purchased. And the $60 or $70 million that we're extending into 2032, we would have had that in equity if we would have bought that.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. And I think that what the feeling is and the pushback about buying a building is that the current leadership wants to be in a really good location and have it very glamorous and have it very influential. And instead of saying, okay, what are the needs? What do our members need? They need our staff to be in our office. We need a place to have our boardrooms. It would be great to have a theater for Film Society, for the national headquarters. And as it is right now, we have half of the 9th floor, we have all of the 8th floor, all of the 7th floor. And then right before the pandemic, we rented out half of the 2nd floor that's been empty for 2 or 3 years. And we laid off a third of our staff. So
If you look at the hot zone, it's actually Studio City. So when they say that the buildings are close to the studios, I'm wondering which ones those are, because the hot zone is actually the valley.
That's correct. And we did a heat map of all of our members, and it actually was like Burbank area that a lot of our members, that was kind of the central area. So that's just
hot zones and heat maps. All right, so I think let's move on from the owning versus renting discussion for a minute. I think people have enough information to decide what they think was right about that. This next caller here is someone who also requires no introduction, as an extraordinary life of service to the union, and is an exquisite performer in her own right. Lady Frances Fisher.
Thank you. Hey guys, it's so great to see you all there lined up. It's 8:00 here in Nova Scotia. I got an early call, so I'm watching until I have to go to bed. I just wanted to say a couple of things. Oh, by the way, I'm not giving my vice president seat in the LA local to Sheryl Lee Ralph, but I sure hope she wins. She's awesome. I'm stepping by so we can give new blood a chance to flow. For Annie, how to reach out. You know what I've been doing, Annie, is text messaging or emailing the casts that I used to work with as kind of a reunion, like, hey guys, here we are all together. And by the way, look at membershipfirst.com and your voting guide is there. Something really simple. So I've been reaching out to my groups of people I've worked with, and it's been really nice to catch up with them. That's one way to do it. The other thing with Joshua, the right of first refusal is the idea that you want when you're negotiating for yourself. Get your agents to help you. That should be standard practice. That you should have a right of first refusal to say no. I don't want to continue with this job, but they can't take it from you. It should always be yours until you give it up. And my question is this, because I'm out here on the Way Atlantic coast. Did I hear right that Membership First did ask for a debate with their presidential candidate and their secretary treasurer candidate in 2 separate debates, and they both said no? Can someone explain that to me, please? Because I think this should be on social media, because I believe that debate is one of the purest forms of understanding where two sides are coming from. Thank you.
Frances, we believe that this forum that we're in right now is incredible, and you're exactly right. We're hearing people's questions and letting people vent and speak and ask what we stand for. We did ask our opponents to come on board and have a conversation with us, and we called it a debate, I think, once. I think the letter that we got back was that they wanted more control over the structure and who was the moderator. So if they are offering a different structure and a different moderator, we are open and willing to continue this conversation. But yes, 2 times we were denied that.
So they're just going to kick the ball down the line till August 30th. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Frances.
Sean, this is Sean Sharma barging in real quick. Just want to remind you, we have about 7 questions that were submitted through the chat. So whenever we want to take a switch between those that are in line and those that are had sent me questions in the chat.
Right, I'll review those during the next answer.
Sean, can I say one thing? There is a question in the chat that was posed to me about people that want to endorse, that are asking for the template, that say they support Membership First. If they could email thatjoliefisher@gmail.com, and I will in turn create those endorsement cards for them if they would like.
You want me to put your email in the chat for people to reach out?
Sure.
That's awesome, right?
Okay, so Francis, you're finished, I think, and we'll go to CJ Joseph.
Okay, grand afternoon, grand evening, everyone. How is everyone? I am actually new to SAG since February 2020, right before the shutdown. Imagine that. After being eligible for several years and wanting to be in leadership at some point as I start my journey with SAG-AFTRA. And I sat in on a meeting last week with, I guess I can call it the opposition per se, and wanting to really have a democratic mindset and get a forward view of both parties per se. But how do I go about learning outside of going to membership first? But as far as the historical perspective of the union, let's say within the past decade, compared to what Member First is trying to move the union towards for the membership. So how do I learn more about what has been done in the past decade or so? And then, of course, going to membershipfirst.com.
David?
Can I jump in there?
Oh, yeah, go, Matthew.
CJ, can you see me?
I can.
You can. That's my card. If you reached into your wallet right now and pulled out your card, you'd see it looks just like mine. Same thickness, same dimension. Yeah. That makes us brothers. And the other ladies on this are brothers and sisters. That my card is no more significance than yours. On this call today, we're all people trying to do what we can to help one another. The reason I bring that up is that while it may be perceived that there's an opposition, the people who've spoke today that are running, we're running for the members. I am not running against Fran Drescher. Jolie is not running against anybody. She's running for our members. Mm-hmm. So it's an important thing to keep in mind, because you have to decide really who do you think is more able to accomplish the goals that you want to see this union move forward with. That's why our platform is very important and very clear. And it took a long time for us to sit down and just find the right structure for a sentence. That what is the best way to show that we care about all the different branches of our membership, from the radio and television artists to the DJs, the newscasters, the disability, the members with disabilities, all of these things are very important, and it takes a lot of time to define what those things are. But these are all things that we're doing for the members, So I don't like to think of myself as having an opposition, but just make a decision to choose the person that you think will best represent you.
Okay.
I see Jolie's got her hand up.
I would love to speak for a second. I think that it should be known that about 2 hours before the deadline to pull a petition to run for these top officer positions, they didn't have a candidate for either position, or they said at the 11th hour were trying to find someone. So the party of Unite for Strength, the current administration, who is boasting all these tremendous gains in a contract and how everything is going fine and everything, and possibly you didn't lose your health care or whatever it is that they're saying, they are not running again. So I think that that's very important for membership to know, that they ran around and asked a bunch of people to run in their stead. And the ones that they landed on are, as I said, bright and talented and focused and activists and warriors and survivors. They just don't have the experience of any of this. None of them have served on committees, let alone in the boardroom. So I think that there is a difference there. We are not running against Gabrielle and Cameron. We are running against Fran and Anthony. But like Matthew said, we're running for you. We're running to represent you, the membership. And we've been here for the long haul.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to thank you, CJ, because it must be daunting. He just became a member in February. So, I mean, I remember my head was spinning when I became a member in blah, 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 blah. So I know this is what I would recommend, and I'm sure everyone on this panel would offer up. Please talk to us individually, especially those of us who've been at this for a while. We have a sense of perspective. And I would recommend that you do the same if they make themselves available with our opposition. But I will make myself available to talk to you specifically about what I believe is important, and what I'm advocating, and what Membership First is advocating, and how we believe that we can make a difference. So please feel free to, Sean Sharma can hook us up, but feel free. We can have a nice long chat over the phone.
Okay. And just one last thing, Matthew, you mentioned being union brothers and sisters. When I joined in February 2020 and got pinned during the SAG Awards, my statement was, I did not just join the union, I gained 160,000 union brothers and sisters. And that quote was in the SAG-AFTRA magazine a year later. So if you've seen that quote, that was me.
That's a perfect sentence, man. That's beautiful.
And then CJ, I just want to say thank you. You're a new member and you're participating. I just am so impressed with that you're out here and you're asking the questions and you're looking at both sides and you're educating yourself. And it's members like you that gives me hope. It's members like you that make me want to continue my union service. And I just, want to say thank you so much for that. And
you're most welcome.
Can't wait to meet you in person.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much, CJ. Miki Yamashita, you're up.
Hello, my name is Mickey. I'm a 20-year SAG member. I have one brief question. So it's now common knowledge amongst the membership that the trustees of the health plan were also on the negotiating committee, and so that the status of the health plan was not disclosed to us fully when the negotiations occurred, or before, during, or after. And then, so essentially the contract was presented to us for a vote under totally false pretenses. So my question is, when there is a change in leadership, and I have complete faith that there will be, what specifically can we put in place to ensure that something like that will never occur again to the membership? That we'll always vote for a contract based on all the information that is available.
David Jolliff.
Hi, Mickey. With our leadership, that will never happen again. Jane and I were on the negotiating committee. Like I told you guys, I've been on every major negotiating committee since 1997. Nothing was ever put in front of us to tell us that the health plan was in crisis. It was, every negotiation is, we need to get money into the health plan, we need to get money into the pension plan. If we had known that the health plan was in such crisis, it would have changed the dynamic in the negotiations. Now lay that aside. It's not right that you were asked to vote on a contract. I just looked at a video that Gabrielle did during the Vote Yes campaign from the union, and she's out there promoting it. And in a chyron in the bottom of the screen, written out, says it said a more secure health plan. It actually says a more secure health plan. Now, to find out 3 weeks after you voted yes on that contract, that contract did not fund the health plan to sustain the current benefits, to me was an outright betrayal. And also, the president, Matthew, when he's president, by constitution, he will be the chair of the major negotiations unless he decides to give that chairmanship to somebody else. So if I were the chair of that last TV theatrical negotiation, or the chair of the Netflix negotiation right before that, or the commercial negotiation right before that, and my executive director, who was a trustee, and my lead second chair negotiator, who's also a trustee, and a couple of trustees that were actually on the negotiating committee never told me, I would have been incensed. Wait a second, I just put my reputation and everything and the union into a negotiation. You never told me. Now, we always do studies before we go in to a negotiation on certain issues. We get reports on residuals and what's needed there. We get reports on the nudity provisions and what we do there. All of these discussions are had. We never had any kind of report or anything from the health plan. Now you're hearing things like, well, the health plan and the union are separate. They're legally separate, but they're inextricably linked, you guys. The union seats the trustees. The union negotiates every penny that funds the health plan. So that will never happen again if we lead this union.
So you're saying that they're not, but that the trustees are not embargoed from sharing information?
I've heard this, and absolutely not from the board, not from the people that are negotiating the money that's going to go in to fund the health plan. We board members, we get periodic reports from Michael Estrada, the head of the health and pension plan, on the status of the plans. We get those reports all the time. Never was a report given to the board. Never was a report given to the negotiating committee. Jane, you can say, what did you ever hear anything?
Nope, nothing.
So actually, Jane and myself and a few other negotiating members, we were so shocked on August, we found out on the 11th as board members, but on August 11th, that we actually wrote Gabrielle and David and said, we are in shock right now. We never knew this was happening. And can't we go back and renegotiate something? I won't say much more about that interchange, but you guys saw that 2 days after the August 12th announcement, by August 14th, Francis, myself, and Pat, the three top officers from Los Angeles and a few others, we put together the SOS Health Plan website, and we were on it. And it got to the point where you guys, it's now published that Ed Asner and a few others of us filed a lawsuit against the health plan itself on December 1st, an age discrimination lawsuit. So I'm sorry it takes so long to answer your question, but no, under our stewardship, something like that would never happen. And if it were about to happen and we were in that kind of crisis, we will tell you.
Could that kind of lawsuit hurt the plan?
Not at all. Not at all. The plaintiffs have a strict understanding with the attorneys that any settlement of any financial settlement will never, ever invade the corpus of the health plan itself. The only monies that would ever be distributed for any kind of damage or whatever would come out of insurance. That is a very clear understanding that we have with the attorneys.
Okay, and I also wanted to add to this, what David Jolliff said, how important our contract negotiations are to the health of the health plan, because it was when we gave away the travel provisions, and that was millions of dollars that our members did not earn. And in contract negotiations, when we were making that decision, I argued against it until I was blue in the face. And one of my issues is that not only are members going to make less money, less residuals, less dues income, and less pension and health contributions. And it was after that contract, when we got our report, when Michael Estrada said that, for the last 3 years. So you do the math on that. So these decisions that we make, or that this negotiating committee makes, they're so important to the health of the union, our members, and the plans. So
So to be crystal, I see you, Jolly. To be crystal clear, you guys, we in the negotiating committee, in the board, and you, the members, while you were voting on these contracts, had no idea that enough money was going to go into the health plan. Now, it may be that you feel, and the discussion needs to be had, that you don't want to divert that money into the health plan, that you want to have it all in wages and wage increases. And that's a decision that needed to be made. That discussion needed to be had, and it never was.
Jolie?
This is just something that I feel like I want people to know if they don't already know. This is what really ignited me and galvanized a bunch of us to get back into the boardroom, is that I say over and over again, those 4 shiny postcards that came out that said vote yes on this historic contract, and that $54 million was, or it said up to $54 million was being added into the plan, but it didn't say ... That's not enough. It's going to implode in 2 weeks. And to be clear, David White, our national executive director, is also a trustee. So he knew. So isn't it his responsibility to report back to the president and the national board that this was happening? It is his obligation. You cannot have, it is catastrophic that 8,200 seniors got kicked off their healthcare plan in a pandemic 2 weeks after you all asked us, not you all, UFS and the national board, which is weighted UFS, asked us to vote yes on a contract. And Sean Astin and I got on town halls and said, please, 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 listen, let's talk about the details of this deal. Let's talk about it before you vote yes on something that you don't know what you're voting yes on. That's where we are. We want the transparency. We want people to know what these deals are. We want you to know what you're voting yes on. We're going into another contract negotiation. Do you want them in charge of it, or do you want us in charge of it?
Thank you, Jolie. I just glad that I watched, I don't know, upwards of 15 hours of union produced webinars about the health plan crisis. And I was embarrassed for how arrogant and kind of heartless they were with the way they talked about it, almost in actuarial terms. And saying things like, even if you would have known before the negotiation that this was happening, you couldn't have made a difference to the plan in what you did. I thought that was, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how hard it is to provide medical care, but this kind of 3-card Monty thing about, well, what's first care and what's your second care, and were you ever promised care, and hey, don't worry, we've got a concierge service that'll help you find better care. And there just seemed to me to be a fundamental lack of commitment to all of the people who were represented in the plan.
And Sean, sorry, P.S. and by the way, here's a quick, easy fix. They haven't raised the contributions from employers in 39 years. Boom, done. That's something they could have gone back to the table with. And for your small increase in streaming, we could have argued to put more in from contributions from employers. We haven't raised that in 39 years.
And to
that
me,
would fund the plan.
The bridge to getting there is we had this massive emergency fund that they didn't tap into to help people who, it's really unconscionable.
The one about the emergency fund, the health plan was merged, the SAG and after health plans merged 1/1/2017. In the first year, that health plan was 20 million in the black. It immediately started failing. In 2018, it was 50 million in the red. In 2019, it was 50 million in the red. And in 2020, it was $150 million in the red. They burned through half of the half a billion dollar reserve that we had. But we did still have $250 million in reserves. And it was said to us in those webinars that at the current reserves, we could get through 2024 at the current benefit levels. At a minimum, we could have mitigated and softened the blow that happened. it's just horrible what happened. But it's also how it happened, you guys. To have the union put a video up in the middle of December, having an actor come up and say on a video on the SAG-AFTRA website that you're being lied to, nobody really lost their insurance, and no one was ever promised senior secondary coverage, is heartbreaking to see that's what the union leadership's position would be. If that is the current leadership's position, none of us are safe because none of the health plan is promised. It's assured, and we're supposed to have trust in the fundamentals of the plan that's put together, that when you work, put more than 20 years in and earn those health credits, you were assured that at 65, you have senior secondary coverage. And it was ripped away. And the union puts a video up saying you were never promised it.
It just seems like the oldest generation is kind of being phased out prematurely. It's, the residuals, for a certain kind of performance, it really heavily weights people from earlier TV shows. It just seems like, if you whistle past the graveyard, then maybe, you can adjust these plans to reflect a different demographic. And to me, you have somebody's got to be able to say, no, we're not gonna like sell out our members. Their membership and their contributions are good, even through their lifetime, right?
Dawn, do you want that? Because I don't want to take up so much time.
Maybe there's a member who's waiting to speak who may have a magic pill that we can all hear.
Right.
So we can get some input from our members.
This is the issue that is animating the electorate.
That's right.
This is the issue that I hear about the most. People know about it. My father, 91, lost his health insurance. He's ready to run for the board. He's ready to run for the board. But this is the issue. I'm sure we'll get more questions on it, but I didn't mind watching you guys and talking about it because it's, it's at the core of what it means to quote unquote represent members. Okay, let's go with Stephen Howitt.
Thank you very much. Greetings from Massachusetts. How are you doing today?
Good. Hi.
Good. I'm just as a background, I'm also a Massachusetts state rep, and I worked very hard to defeat the sunset that was proposed in Massachusetts for the tax credit. So very proud about that. And hopefully we'll see more business coming to Massachusetts. The question that I do have deals with casting agents. There's a perception that unless you take the classes or you sign up for their quote unquote service, so that you can you pay a certain amount and supposedly you get better exposure to the casting directors. What are your feelings about that type of a business plan that some of these casting agencies have?
Well, personally, it's hard. There have to be certain protections in place for performers relative to actors, but this idea that they're creating a barrier to entry based on a kind of profit for themselves, I don't know. I mean, Sean Sharma knows this issue pretty good. Say again.
They can't. I mean, you can't pay to play. So our union should, regardless of where the agent is, our union should focus on that and deal with the casting directors directly. In Los Angeles, and Jolliff, correct me if I'm wrong, casting directors of a particular level are unionized. They are recognized under Teamsters, correct?
I don't know if they went with the Teamsters, but they are unionized.
Yeah, it's the Teamsters 399.
So performers should never have to pay to play, period. That is, in a lot of areas, not even legal. So if this is widespread, then this should be focused on and stopped. And unfortunately, casting directors and agents, but specifically some casting directors, prey on the most vulnerable, which are performers who are desperate to work, desperate to have representation, desperate to get into the room. But under no circumstances should a performer have to pay to play.
Thank you.
Sean, if we could go to one of the written questions, and then we also have a couple of people who had trouble raising their hands that I can tell you where they fit into the line.
Why don't you pick one of the questions that are written, Sean?
Well, I'll just go in the order that I got them. So the first one I got was, for contract negotiations, who do we plan to have as negotiators for SAG-AFTRA? Do we use or plan to use negotiators that are non-actors and therefore do not have the concerns of backlash from producers, like being blacklisted for drawing hard lines during negotiations?
David, do you want to explain the process of seating a negotiating team?
Sure. What we have done historically up till a few years ago is that we would hold W&W's wages and working conditions meetings, and all interested groups would show up around the country to these meetings. And we would start to build our proposal packages and hear the wants and needs of the members. Those people that show up would slowly be homogenized into a core group that would become the Wages and Working Conditions Plenary Committee, which is the national committee that would put the proposals together, and they would eventually become the negotiating committee. Over the past few years, that negotiating committee has been seated before that process even begins. So before anyone can even get into the room, they're kind of shut out of being on the negotiating committee. So we would open that process up to begin with, and to go back to how we used to do it, where those who show up, you know the saying, those who show up run the world. We also have a very large constituency group and geographical group that must be represented on the negotiating committees. We have disparate interests that must have their voice heard in the room, all the way from stunt performers to background to New York people, representing that area, to Chicago, to San Francisco. All of these disparate groups need to come together, and it is first of all, it's the right thing to do, but secondly, it's the galvanizing thing to do, where we're all brought together and we can monolithically move forward and carry each other on each other's backs. I don't know if anyone else wants to add how we put that together.
Go ahead, Emery.
I just want to make it very clear. There is a urban myth that those who negotiate our contracts, or at least during SAG Legacy, that those who were on the negotiating team didn't work the contract. That is, as David clearly stated, we go through an arduous W&W, wages and working process. The goal is, when we are elected, that process will be reintroduced way in advance, so we are prepared to go in and renegotiate these deals. It's not staff down, it's member up, membership and up. That's the way to do it.
Also, a very crucial dynamic that needs to be expressed right now is that, the committees that I chaired, the 2 commercials and the 2 TV theatrical, one with Melissa, one with Alan, we would go into the sidebars as principals. We have our lawyers or the executive directors, 1 or 2 people that would go in, and they're the executives. But 2 or 3 of us who were leading the negotiation would also go into the sidebar rooms with the head lawyers for the studios and a couple of their top labor people. And we would go in a cloistered room and talk things out. That changed about 10 years ago, where all of a sudden only the executive director and the head of contracts for us would go into the sidebar. And then they would have those discussions with no one observing or no one actually inserting the performer or the member's point of view in those sidebars, which are critical. That's where a lot of the deals get done, where we're off the record, no one can hear us. Okay, here's what we're doing. And that will change too. If Matthew is the chair of that next negotiation, Matthew will be in the room with the AMPTP heads and the studio heads, so that he can represent us and he can come back and report to us and what happened, and he can carry our message. Not that our executives can't, but the executives don't have the visceral, living history and knowledge of what we do for a living. So that will also change. That's something that really I really don't believe in that. We should be in those sidebars, a couple of we members.
Jane, go fast and I'm looking at a long list of hands.
And it started with Ken Howard when he was the president, that the members weren't going in the sidebars. And I have to tell you that the members, when they're in that room, the conversation is very, very different than when they're not. And I agree totally with David Jolliff that that's just a wrong way to do it.
Okay, let's go to Steve Lanza.
Hey guys, thank you. Say one quick thing to Anne-Marie. I was at the SAG meeting when you received that Ralph Edwards Award. It was very sad to see you leave, and I'm very happy to see you back.
We love Ralph Edwards, but it was Ralph Morgan.
Ralph Morgan, my bad. So Matthew, this is sort of directed at you. I'm going to read you something that I wrote on Facebook in response to Fran Dresser's Facebook message that asked for her vote. And I wrote to her and said, why would I vote for someone who has not held any union positions to lead this union? Where were you last year during the pandemic when SAG members were crying for guidance? I got a response from Ben Whitehair, and I'm quoting, Steve Lanza, Matthew has been an absentee board member, barely ever shows up and never even says anything in the boardroom. I'd much rather have someone who has spent an entire career fighting for people than someone who can't even be bothered to show up to a board meeting, much less actually do anything for our members, end quote. So this is more about information to you to see, so you know what is being said and what is being written. So in the attempt to get people to vote membership first, there is proper information out there for that. And that is that.
Well, Ben should be ashamed of himself, but I look forward to hearing Matthew's response.
Why should Ben be ashamed of himself? We can't be responsible for other people and their behavior, Sean.
All right.
The past 18 months, we've had over 13 board meetings. In a normal year, there's 4 a year. So in
Sean,
the past 8, can you hear me?
In a movie, and he's John Aston's son and Patty Duke.
Go ahead and there it is. Okay.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Resean, I didn't mean that in any. I just
no. I'm just frustrated because it didn't sound like a. I mean, if people's records are records, but it just sounded like a kind of cheap political answer rather than a genuine one.
You mean Ben Whitehair's comment on Twitter? Yeah. Well, we all know what Twitter is. Twitter is a place, where people get to sort of scream anonymously and express their opinions. Sometimes they're without fact or without proof of what it is that they say in that medium. It's unfortunate, but it's what it is. So as I was saying, normally we have 4 board meetings a year, the national board. In the past 18 months, we've had over 13. In the last 12 months, I've attended 7 of the 12 that have taken place. So I'm not sure what Ben Whitehair is talking about. I've certainly been there. So the other thing is, and this is important, and over the past since we went back to work with the with the protocol place to work, the union was always meant to accommodate our professional schedules. The president of our union, Gabriel Carteris, has scheduled these board meetings during the week instead of the weekend, where working performers could, that are board members, be able to attend those board meetings. They've been very obviously directed to happen during the week to prevent our members that are board members that are working from participating in those discussions at those board meetings because of our work schedules. So I don't want to disparage any of the people who might say those things against me or about me. But if you want to look at my IMDb page and the work that I've done, I'm a working performer, and you could look at any Ben Whitehair or Gabrielle Carteris or and say what are they doing that would prevent them from being able to participate in a meeting. I'm a working performer, and I say that unapologetically. I'm very lucky and I'm very blessed to be working during a pandemic.
Okay, Dolly.
Did you just say Jolie?
No, you're Jolie.
Oh, sorry.
It might be Dolly. It's Doli. Is it Dolly? Dolly? Waiting to see if.
Hello, Diali here.
Diali.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
It's Dominic Oliver. Hi guys, people know me. I have a general question. For the last 30 years, I've seen this union fracture into two parties. And every voting cycle, it's the same thing where the hash is thrown back and forth. And my general question is, how do we come back as one union? I remember in 1986 when I joined, Sean, your mom was the president, and it was great, and I was charged. I looked around the room, I saw all of these celebrities and great actors and people, and I was in this club, and I was charged, and I gave a lot. I gave a lot for that first 20 years. And now I just, how do we come back as one union? How do we cross the aisle? And how do we have a committee that's, let's make peace? And this is a union. You know, it's not, I see what's out there, the two parties we have out there in politics now. And it's scary. And I've seen what the union's done, and I've seen what they've, that's it. How do we come back? How do we come back as one union?
So I know Matthew let Matthew go for this one, Emery.
I don't mind letting Emery go first. I'll follow Anne-Marie.
Just a bit of history. So since 1933, the union was always separated. And hi, Dominic, nice to see you. Since the inception of the Screen Actors Guild, there was always fractions. I recommend everyone read The Politics of Glamour, which is an extensive expose on the history of union politics within the Screen Actors Guild. Having differing opinions that later formulate into slates or sides is really a natural byproduct of multiple opinions. It's wonderful to have diverse philosophies and needs, but Membership First focuses on the needs of the members, not our personal ego-driven, we're right, you're wrong type of philosophy. It just does not work. But the reality is there have always been parties within talent union politics. We are not immune to that. And it really started at the beginning of this wonderful, of SAG legacy, this wonderful union.
Thank you.
It's a tremendous responsibility. All of these leadership positions that in our local and our national boardrooms, our delegates are important. Our members are important, but it's not a role. This is not. We mustn't confuse our profession with our union leadership. This is a tremendous responsibility. It's one that I believe that everyone that's on this panel today takes quite seriously. And I think that what's happened over the last decade is that we have sort of people whose careers may have faltered or they've become hobbyists as actors and become union, that this is the role that they're playing. They're playing at something rather than understanding the responsibility that they have to the members, and the decisions that they're making affect the financial lives of our members. And that's just not something that you play at. So I think that's the departing leadership and some of the people. There are people that are running this time that there are people on this call today that I know and I've known over the course of their careers, and who are unbelievably gifted artists. And I know that that under different circumstances, we'd be having a conversation about what's the best way to move forward rather than the best way to advocate for a party. And as I pointed out before, when I held my card up, that in union politics, there's no number one on the call sheet. I may be when I'm working on a film, number one on a call sheet, but here on this conversation now, we are all equal, and I believe that with my entire heart and soul, and that's why David was talking before, and about the importance of wages and working condition conversations, because this is where the members get the opportunity to share what's happening in the field. And the entertainment industry is changing so quickly now. It's evolving so quickly in different directions. And it's important to hear from the members about the working conditions that they're experiencing, and sharing that information so that when we go into negotiations, we are armed with the knowledge of our 160,000 members.
Jolie, did you want to say something first?
I wanted to answer that question, if I could, kind of directly, is that I feel like I am a unifier, and that I'm not slinging any hash at the moment. I have friends all over this business on both sides of the aisle. Unfortunately, there are those two sides. I've reached out to everybody. I've texted, I've called, I've asked for their support. I've promised to do a good job. I can't fathom that some of my friends over there would not support my candidacy and my eventual election to this position, knowing me the way that they do, and trying to find an alternative to Jolie Fisher as Secretary Treasurer. I promise that I will try to unify. And I believe that Matthew, that's in his blood as well.
David?
Thank you. Yeah, the sides it's not healthy for the union, but I ask our opponents to come join us. Come join us in protecting our health and pension plans. Join us and stop trading away important provisions in our contracts away. Communicate honestly with the members. Have everyone in our pension plan be treated equally as how they accrue their pensions, which is not happening at the time. Certain people have a much better pension than others. Stop renting these buildings all over the country. To us, residuals are important. We don't believe in the philosophy that residuals are eventually going to go away. They are essential to our well-being financially, and negotiate from a position of strength. Once you want to join us in those tenets, we'll all be on the same page. And until we are, unfortunately, I see that we will have these differences of opinion. That lays out our philosophy in a nutshell. Please, everyone, come join us. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to add, there's a structural thing that happens. It's a contest. It's a democracy. And in a democracy, there's a time and a space to be able to draw out distinctions in your positions and, talk about who you are and so on and so forth. So, but the way, Dominic, that you end up unifying each other, other than the fact that we all need to be unified in order to get the best deals. If we're not unified, that's exploited by the employers. But you have to have people in positions of leadership who have that instinct, who have the impulse towards seeing the value in each other, seeing that people who may not agree with you, that they still have the union's best interest at heart. You can discern that. Our union does something that other unions don't do, which is we seem to have our dirty laundry aired out in public and on Twitter. So I think it makes it a little bit worse, a little bit harder to come together when people are in a crouch on their Twitter, hurling problems and so forth. But what I know from Matthew for working with him for 30 years, and know from Jolie for knowing her 30 years, and these other three, I'm just learning these 2 years. But what I can tell you is that Matthew has that deeply, and you already saw it tonight. I was annoyed at Ben's whataboutism. He was a critical question was asked of a candidate, about not serving yet in the boardroom, instead of giving what I'm sure are very good answers for that candidate to give, or her advocates to give. He did a whataboutism and tried to take a shot at my guy that was wrong. So it's hard when that's there. But Matthew has an impulse towards healing and unity and mutual respect. And that is the answer to your question. And it is possible. So, okay. For me, that's my answer to your question. All right. Do you want to ask Sean one of the written questions?
Very much. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Sean, Jane had her hand up. I don't know if you wanted to give her a chance.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and you know what I've learned, and especially being in the executive officer position for the 4 years I was, is that there has to be a willingness to work together. You have to have an open mind and open ears and listen to each other speak respectfully, and then come to some form of consensus so that everyone feels satisfied and that they're doing the best job they can for the members. And fundamentally, what the problem is that Membership First likes to be transparent, be inclusive, include the members' voices in coming up with the solutions to the problems. And Unite for Strength has a tendency to have their small group come up with the solutions and then tell everybody what to do, what we're going to do. And when you have those two different approaches in a boardroom, and the majority is this one that's very controlling and wants to take the credit, they don't want to have that communication. And that's why it's so frustrating. And the day that we get people in there that are going to have open minds and open ears and really talk to each other and come up with decisions, that is when we will have a unified board. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Jane. Sean, do you want to ask one of the written questions?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And then wanted to go to Alan Rosenberg, who couldn't raise his hand, and we're at the point where he messaged me to join the line. So the next question is, what are a couple of things that Membership First thinks their opponents won't do that they will?
Matthew, do you want to address that?
First and foremost, be truthful and transparent, because there's never been any indication of that in the several years that I've worked in the boardroom in the James Cagney. I've seen a great lack of transparency and truth. You can't, we talk about this division that exists within the union. How do you move forward when you don't trust the people that are giving you information? The people that the national executive director, as David was pointing out, that didn't share information with the president of the union as we entered into a theatrical negotiation and tell them that the health fund was underfunded. That lack of transparency, that lack of truth is what led to 8,200 members of our union getting pushed off the health plan. It's cruel. It's cruel and it's unhuman, and it's not it's not a union that I want to be a part of that treats our senior members that way. So the fundamental difference between the leadership, that's the departing leadership, and I'm sorry to say that the people that I'm running against are yoked and harnessed to that legacy. It doesn't matter that they say that they want to be glamorous and it's so frustrating, but that's the simple answer, that this group of people here are truthful and transparent, and they want to do for the members. That's why it's called Membership First. It's in the name. It's what we do. We're trying to represent the members, all of the members, not some of them, not a faction of our members, but all of our members. Thank you.
Okay.
Go to Alan Rosenberg.
Yeah, Alan. Candidate for delegate, Alan Rosenberg.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Previous president of the union. Welcome, Mr. President.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Previous president of Legacy SAG. This is a critical question about why we have two parties and why we can't seem to get along. Emery is correct. It's been there since the inception of the union. She's right. Everybody wants to get involved in the union and have a primer. Should read The Politics of Glamour. It's very well laid out in there. Why we have two parties, why we always have. And Matthew, and thank you for your service. Thank you all for your service. Matthew's right. I've said it every time I ever spoke to the board, it's anathema in a labor union to have a two-party system, and virtually impossible to make gains in negotiations if you have a two-party system. But this two-party system doesn't exist because we're all actors, we're all opinions. It's by design. When I was president in the early 2000s, we were negotiating against the 7 biggest corporations in the history of the world. Now we're negotiating against the biggest corporations in the history of the universe. In The Politics of Glamour, you will see it laid out. And I always I state their position better than they will because I'm being kind to them. In The Politics of Glamour, they will tell you that Unite for Strength, or what they've always been called, believe that the best thing we can do, first of all, we're not a labor union, we are a guild. And the best thing we can do is make it easy for producers to produce because they create employment. So they are prone to want to give back first-class airfare, give back residuals, to be more conciliatory in negotiations. But they can't say that when they run for office because they could not get elected if they said that was their position. I happen to think it's an absolutely reasonable point of view in this day and age. Our point of view, my point of view, membership's first point of view is we need to bargain hard because, as I said, we're negotiating against the biggest corporations that ever existed. My late brother was the president of Warner Brothers Pictures. We used to discuss this all the time. They think we are interchangeable, all of us. All of us at the top of 0.5% are interchangeable. They don't care. We are all obstacles to them making a profit. The only way we can make headway, the only way we can make, because we know how important we are. We know we are the product. We know they can't do this without us, from the biggest stars down to the background performers. And the only way we can make negotiations is to be united. So I'm going to cut this short. The only way I can see, because this has been phenomenal. Thank you all for holding this town meeting. Thank you all for participating. But I've looked down and we're topping out at 144 participants. We have to get out to the membership. You must demand, Matthew and Jolie, a debate. You must make it, state it loud and clear, write a op-ed to the LA Times if you have to. It is critical that we lay out our positions and make these differences between us distinct, because they are distinct. And as Doug Allen said back when we were negotiating in 2008, and Emery's right, that was the first time, that was the last time we made any real gains, was our 2006 basic cable negotiations, because we bargained hard, and we didn't even have a chief negotiator then.
Alan, I hate to be the timekeeper, but we're at over 2 minutes, just FYI.
All right, let me demand a debate. Make it public as you can, because that is the only way. If you ask them why they haven't made any gains in the last 15 years, they'll have to answer it. You can put you can put the screws to them. Demand a debate, and then ask why they won't agree to one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan Rosenberg. A question let's go to Henry Farnham. Hopefully
I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Great. I want to talk about something that I've spoken with Sean about, and that is SAG member producing. I have been a longtime SAG member, and in the early 2000s said, why, yes, we all want to work. We have so many people out of work, and we have so much talent around us as the other actors who are directors and writers and have cameras. And this was before we could film on our iPhones. And immediately went to SAG and said, how do I produce? And was called a few names that I won't repeat here, but Fat Cat Producer was one of them, to say, we're not going to support you in this. It was a little shocking. And over the years, SAG, when you go and you try to do it correctly through SAG, they've gotten better and better about it. But I still feel that we members should have our own department for going in, because there's a lot of issues that we face when producing with all of the people around us who want to create product and get it out there, create our own shows, create our own movies. And I personally will not run cameras until I have done everything I should with my SAG contracts, making sure that we have our workers' comp, et cetera, et cetera. But there are many out there that do it behind the scenes and don't get their SAG contracts, and because they can't afford a workers' comp. And we want to make sure cameras can roll. So what can we do to allow us to have a department to go to be able to talk about what the costs are, what's keeping us from being able to roll cameras on great projects that our members have written and want to direct? I'll leave it at that. Thank you all so much.
Hi, Henry. This is Sean. Hi, Henry.
Hey.
Let me answer this quickly. I see that we have a lot of people still in line, and I want to be able to get to everybody. Actually, the group that you're looking at right now, we had a discussion about this last night or today. We talk all the time, you guys, about we had a FICOR discussion, to be open and transparent. And what we absolutely need to start doing at SAG is make it a place to go to that is helping you with your production, not hindering you and putting obstacles in your way. So one of the many things that we need to really get into is how to make SAG-AFTRA a producer-friendly place to come to, so that we can help you get through the processes that can be extremely muddy and expensive and the like. So that would be not just for you, Henry, but for everyone who wants to produce and be a signatory to our union. We are here to help you through the process. So that would be my answer.
Pretty good. Thank you, Henry. Timothy Klein.
Yeah, just a second.
King, I think we'll have a better chance of getting through our list if we.
No, I was just trying to start my video.
Yeah, you're all right.
Okay. Yeah, whoever said, that we're not in the business of real estate, if it was David White, apparently we're not in the business of representing all categories of performers in a merged union either. There's a lot of issues. There's the split earnings issues. When I'd like to say hello to everybody, first of all. There's a huge disconnect between our national, and has been ongoing for 20 years, between the national representatives out of California and the locals across the country. We also have split earnings. We also had a problem. I ran for the board of directors back in 99 and 2000. We defeated the merger twice on the basis that there was no blueprint. It's the same people that ran AFTRA, that were on the board of directors, that were running AFTRA, that are also the same people that have been running the union for the last 20 years, and nothing has gotten done. Now, as far as what happened with the health plan, who knew what, when they knew it or didn't know it, I think there needs to be serious accountability once everybody is in office and elected, not just transparency, accountability on the basis that they sent out postcards, spent millions of dollars over to get elected to begin with. And the fact that what they knew or what they didn't know with the health plan, here's another one for you. What did they know or what did they not know when they shoved the merger down our throat, that in the negotiations, not only will we not be able to have a strike authorization that they took away, but the fact that in a merged union, we would have more power. AFTRA would no longer be pitted against SAG. We would be able to take that into the negotiating committee against the producers and have real power. However, when they sent the postcards out, did they or did they not know at the time that under ERISA, even though they made the membership vote for it, that they couldn't merge the pension plan, not the health plans, and the split earnings have somewhat come around, but many of the members are suffering not only by the loss of their health benefits because of the split earnings, and still then and now we will never be able to combine our pension plans.
Timothy,
Did they know
hey,
that
brother.
then when they spent money to send it out to the membership to get that passed?
Brother, we're at 2:40, so can you please wrap it
Yeah,
up?
that's it, Sean.
Matthew will talk to you about old generals in a second.
And we are the content. Last thing, we are the content creators, and everybody that's out there with the corporations, they are the distributors. So without us, they could not during a pandemic have put out all new content.
Okay, muting you in 3, 2, 1.
Matthew will tell you in 10 seconds about old generals. I will just tell you that, yes, we have concerns about all of that. We have for a while. When you go and work, you don't know if you're going to be handed an after contract or a SAG contract. That's the split. That's the split that you're talking about. It's been 9 years since the promise of merge pension plan. You can't merge these two plans. There's only an option that we see, which is freezing both and starting a new one. But that is going to take a lot of work and it's going to be a lot of work to do. But Matthew, you have the answer for this.
Actually, it was Timothy, right? Was it Timothy?
Yeah.
It asked? Yeah. Hi, Timothy. Where are you in the world?
Well, I put his hand out. Let me find him in the Neil Day.
It's okay. I just wondered where he resided. There wasn't really a question in.
Yeah. Hi, Matthew. It's Timothy. Yes.
Yeah. Where are you from?
We worked together on SVU. That's when I met you. You're Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
Yeah. You're back
New York
east.
City, NYC.
Yeah. Hi, Timothy.
And I tried to speak very quickly because I know we only had 2 minutes, and I wanted to get it all in there for all the members, and especially you.
Okay, muting you, Timothy. All right, love you, bro.
We understand your frustration. We understand your rage, and there's a tremendous amount of work to be done to try to this merger happened, but the merger never really happened. What David was talking about old generals was that bad generals fight old wars. It's 2021, and we recognize the problems of that happened with the merger. There's still split incomes, and the pension plans will never be able to be merged. So it's a conundrum, and it's going to take some great minds to sit down and work out how to move forward so that we can benefit our members, and find a way that is fiscally possible to be able to. Have I lost my internet connection? Did I lose you?
We got you.
I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the internet's not very good. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do, Timothy, and I appreciate you. And this is why we have wages and working condition meetings, so that we can hear from the members and find out their concerns and how to move forward in these negotiations and find ways of solving the problems. Very important to listen to the members, because there's great people out there that have great wisdom, and we look forward to hearing from you. And I'll tell you really quickly, there was a truck that got stuck in the tunnel in New Jersey at the Midtown Tunnel, I believe it was. And because it was a big, tall truck, and it got stuck in the tunnel. It was too tall to go in, and it was all jammed in, and it was blocking traffic, and nobody knew what to do. And they brought all these engineers, fire department, policemen, and they were getting ready to cut the top of the truck off. And a young boy in a station wagon, rolled the window down. He said, "Let the air out of the tires." And so Timothy, you're the sort of fellow that can tell us how to let the air out of the tires. Thank you.
One of the, do you want to finish your thought, Matthew, about merger? Because one of the negative things that people say is that, like, oh, they're just spend all their time complaining about merger. And what you said earlier to me today, I think is important for everyone else to hear.
Well, the merger happened. That's why I say it. It's happened, and it's 2021. You know, we're almost into 2022 now, and it's foolish for us to bitch and moan about something that's done. It's like if your house burned down and you're still angry about it having lost the contents of your home. It's gone, man. It's done. So rather than mourn about what's been lost or what happened or what could have happened, what should have happened, here we are. It's 2022. You know, I'm going to tell you another story, and I know you guys hate my.
To me, you said earlier you want to govern a fully merged union
and harness the power of the merge. There's power in it. We are one union. We are sisters and brothers in many, many facets of this union. That it is old news.
Yeah, it is. It's old news. Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to finish that story or move on?
I don't know if you got, there's so many hands up. If somebody wants to hear my story and another.
I am getting messaging too. It's 5:15. So I want to make sure that everybody who wants to be heard is heard, but also that we are recording this. And one thing that I wanted to make sure that everybody knows is that we are running for these officer positions, but we have candidates across the country that are very important to us on our slate to the national board. It is just as important to lock in 51% of that board, so we are able to work and progress forward with what our agenda is.
We'll try and be as disciplined as we can with maybe just having 1 or 1.5 people answer a question so we can motor through the other questions. Go ahead, Nathan Townsend Levy.
Yes, hello. I am Nathan Townsend Levy. I am running as a delegate in the New York local with the Ideal New York slate. And I would love to continue and just fighting and endorsing for everything we stand for with Membership First. I wanted to go on the record and ask a question specifically for Modine as as one of the public faces of SAG-AFTRA. And I want to ask, if elected, will you and Membership First, this is part one of the question, work to create a national zone for all of SAG-AFTRA, including background actors, stand-ins, body doubles, and broadcasters, such as Lester Holt and Anderson Cooper on NBC and CNN, and these networks with abundant funding? Will this be in all 50 states, including right-to-work states? Will CNN and NBC pay what they should pay under the net code? That's part one of the question. And then part two of the same question is, will the quote minimum union count, unquote, or minimum count, whatever you want to call it, will that be some fantastic number like infinity or 987 nationwide, as is currently obliged for principal actors and performers under the high budget feature-length theatrical agreement under the codified basic agreement? Or will this number continue to be disappointing to me personally at 25 or 85 or something? What can we do to fix the holes leaking union work in the USA to non-union jobs and make these jobs SAG-AFTRA jobs? Thank you very much. This is Nathan Townsend Levy in New York City. Thank you.
Nathan, Sean, I would recommend that if we have the chair of the background committee, Ron Ostro, is here.
I was just going to suggest that too. There he is.
Hi, Nathan. So you've asked this question before, and for people that have not heard it before and may be unaware, in our contracts, there's only one class of work that's actually where the number of potential people is limited, and that's in background. I got to tell you, Nathan, I've been on 4 TV theatrical negotiation committees, and I don't know where you're getting the number of 987 from. The way things work is that if your principal actor Your work opportunities are limited simply by the number of speaking roles or stunt performers or other principal contracts that are in the script or are contemplated by the producers. Background people are limited by, in Los Angeles and in New York, by different numbers depending on TV and film. And we have been fighting for years to increase these numbers. We have been struggling for years to increase our background zones. And one of the major points of disappointment with how contracts have been handled in the last couple of years with the Netflix contract. The Netflix contract was negotiated by staff without direct member involvement. The current leadership says, yes, there was member involvement, because what they say is we had heard in the W&Ws from the previous TV theatrical, we knew what you guys wanted. Well, one of the things we wanted was background work in New Mexico. And one of the things we could have gotten with the Netflix contract was background in New Mexico. You'll hear the term of a non-mandatory subject of bargaining, and I don't want to go too far into that. That term was not applicable to this contract. And quite frankly, we booted on it. So we can only do as much as you guys allow us to do. If you elect people who are committed to trying to expand background work, if you're committed to trying to fix the disparity that exists in certain broadcast worlds where you can work as a union broadcaster on NBC and walk across the hall and work non-union on MSNBC, if you think that these kind of disparities are important, if you believe in organizing across the country for broadcast shops across the country so that all of our broadcasting brothers and sisters have the ability to work once, if one, that they're not limited when, there's only 8 people working and you lose your job and there's nowhere to go because the other shop across the town is non-union. If you believe on those things, I think you want to stick with us. And the last thing I want to say, and I don't mean to be divisive, is look at the slates that are out there. Look at those flyers you got. And I'm going to tell you something that's not going to be obvious. United for Strength in Los Angeles has one person on their glossy pictures who actually makes their living doing background work, stand-in work. And that one person actually doesn't actually want to self-identify that way. You look at our flyer. We've got, I don't know, it's 5 or 6, some of whom, like me, who split their work between standing in and principal work, and some people who are also on the slate who literally their bread and butter, their daily, the ability to pay their rent is due to background work. That's all you need to know. This is the group of people who actually understands what it is to struggle like that. You'll hear almost everybody, including people on you heard it today, almost everybody will say to you at some point, well, I started out doing background. I worked my way up. And it's true. It's true on both sides. But look who's actually still doing that work, who's on the ground, who's got the ability to bring those stories back to the national board. So I hope that answers your question. I have people who know me know that I have an extremely loud and aggressive voice when it comes to this subject. Nobody, it's been very frustrating. Nobody's been able to shut me up, but they have been able to shut me down. So we need more people. Thank you.
Ron Ostro, ladies and gentlemen, the dulcet tones of Ron Ostro. Well answered question. We're going to move on to Kristen Ariza.
No, sorry, Sean, your list must be not at the top. Stella's next, and then Christina, and then Kristen.
Okay, sorry, I didn't pull down there. Stella.
Hi there. Hi. I'm going to make
Stella.
Hi. So I have been campaigning my butt off for this because I wrote something and then I realized that in order to reach some of the dancer friends of mine, I'm going to have to actually talk to them. So I sort of hover over actors, stunt people, dancers, and so I know that the stunt community is voting for membership first, so I don't have to worry about that, and I'm very happy about that. So what I did is I met with some of my friends who are the OG dancers, and I don't know really who's representing the dancers in membership first, but I'm going to go ahead and say what they had to say, and I'm very proud of myself because there's at least 15 to 20 people that have voted for membership first. They are my friends, they're dancers. So talking to them, what they're completely uninterested in participating and voting is because they've never really been covered by the plan's insurance because they've never made the quota. Now, they're choreographers, and I'm talking big time choreographers on TV shows and such, who were big time dancers and not choreographers, that are being offered by TV shows such as The Voice and The Mask, shit I never really fucking watch, that are daily under 1,000 daily rate to create the numbers for those performers. So those people are really kind of negotiating their own rate. And so they just kind of feel like they're not really being taken care of by the membership, the SAG membership, not you guys, the SAG membership. So I'm just bringing this up because dancers are such a big part of movies and TV shows and musicals and such a big part of this community. And they are really not willing to participate because they're not really being taken care of. So I'm just bringing this up and wondering who's representing membership first as dancers.
Stella?
Yeah.
Hi, Jane here. I hope that you round up as many dancers as you can and you show up at the W&Ws and you have your voices heard. You come up with a proposal that's a solution that will help you guys and give you some teeth for when you get these jobs, and that you guys show up really, really strong, because a lot of dancers don't show up at these contracts.
Oh, I know.
And that's when you get your voice heard of how you need the contract to change to cover you. So
it's really hard to make dancers show up for something they don't believe that is really working for them. They rather just do their own thing on freaking Instagram. Now, I'm just here bringing this up because dancers make such a big part of the SAG-AFTRA membership, and they're not voting. And I have been trying to get them to vote this time around because I've been trying to vote for you guys for years now. I've been trying to vote for Matthew. So I can't get everybody because there's hundreds and thousands of them, but I can get those that are close to me. However, if they don't feel that there's anything for them to vote on, then why should they show up? That's what they are saying. And I'm just conveying the message.
Stella, hi, Jolie Fisher here.
Hi, lady.
If you can't get them to show up, do get them to go to membershipfirst.com and our platform, because we did painstakingly design and construct a plank of our platform that really only relates to dancers and how we feel. I agree. It's such an important, I come from theater, and it's such an important community to me. I reached out to major choreographers and dancers and said, come be a part of writing this platform that we want you to be represented. I'm desperate for them to read what we wrote. And we spent a lot of time with dancers asking about what the specific needs were. So if you can get them at least to read that, they might know that we're the ones fighting for them.
And let's not forget that when we are elected, we have a say on how our union is staffed. And sometimes we need to do some shifting in our staffing in order for categories to be fairly represented. And I believe that if our staff who are to oversee the specific concerns of dancers is not up to par, then we need to reevaluate that and find someone who is, preferably a former dancer who has walked the walk and talked the talk.
Who would that be in your membership first?
Yeah, so sorry. Hey, Stella, I'm going to ask Donna Russo, who's the dancer delegate candidate. To weigh in.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I am so happy to speak. I am Donna Russo. I'm running for membership first, dancers candidate delegate seat for delegate. And I have been tagging my friends, tagging all my dancer friends, showing them the Membership First dancer platform. I've been doing videos for Membership First. I've been doing dancer videos. I've been talking. I've been tagging. I am very passionate and I'm very concerned about dancers. I would love to see dance coordinator on sets to to be liaison between dancers and production. I would like to see contracts updated for dancers. When they go on set, to know exactly what is asked of them, not to be given material that is dangerous the day that they arrive on set and things are not appropriately deemed safe. What else can I say? I have just been working to try to tell everyone about why the dancers need to speak up. And I'm hoping that they're listening to my videos, my tags. I am wanting to do some resolutions at the convention. And yeah, I'm running for delegate. So yes,
thank you.
Membership First. I'm proud of it. So there you go.
Also, Stella, we have running on the board for local board is a gentleman named Anthony Marciano. Now his card says actor performer, but he represents the dancing community. He's not. He, for some reason, his category is not on that card, but he really brings the message home for us, as does Donna. Last year, a bunch of dancers did Little Mermaid, Disney, that was produced, that was done for Fox. And they got to a point where they started paying dancers $30 an hour instead of our day rate, because they were using an old AFTRA contract, a legacy contract that we are still stuck with. And they really used that against the dancers. So again, if you go to Membership First, you'll see our dancer platform. It is extensive, and I believe when the dancer community sees that they will understand that we have their backs.
And we also have Lamont on the board.
Lamont Good, who's our national board for the next 2 years.
If you can't show up, if you're too busy or too frustrated or whatever, the very least you should do is vote for somebody you think might help you. Not voting is not a good way to change your circumstance. Okay, so
Sean, I would recommend our last speaker looks like it's Pete Antico, and we're running really, really late. We should probably cut the list off with Pete. Come on, just a suggestion.
Okay, so Sean, if you would cap the line after Pete Antico. We have about 6 or 7 questions before Pete.
And some chat questions as well.
And some chat. Well, let's take one of those just now.
Great. So what is the plan or strategy for changing the formula for our streaming residuals? How will actors as a whole participate in the huge profits that studios are making?
Amen.
I can do this if you'd like, or Ron can do it, or Jane. The streaming residual formula right now is extremely complicated. It's a complicated formula. Then it goes over 5 different categories. Netflix falls in one, Amazon falls in another, Hulu's in another one, Disney Plus. It's a formula though. Ron, what did we calculate? That it would take 7 years of streaming residual to meet one network rerun?
Well, it's not even that we calculated it. That is actually the formula.
Right.
The formula for first of all, I'm going to look for it on my computer when I get out of this and put it on the chat. There are 2 cheat sheets that the union actually provided that explain as best as possible the really convoluted residual formulas. It's you need to know so many of the variables, what platform you're on, which means what's their subscriber base. Then you need to know whether or not it's on a distributor's gross basis, or if it was actually made for the new media. Because one thing is the thing that the new media buys, and one thing is the thing that the new media creates. But what David is referring to, and actually when people ask this question, I use as sort of the shorthand. It is structured so that over a period of 7 years, in the first year, you'll get 35%. The next year, I think you get 15%. And the next 5 years, I think you get 10%. So you get 100% of what would have been basically the equivalent of a prime time rerun. And just as an anecdote, and I gave this anecdote the other day, and actually I realized when I looked back on the SAG Pension and Health website, I'd made a mistake. I did a day player job on a show, an NBC show, primetime show. Show was not successful, but under other circumstances, it might have generated a primetime rerun. However, it was shown simultaneously on Hulu and still lives on Hulu today. And in the year that it is run, actually, I'm sorry, it's almost 2 years, now 2 years in December, that it has lived on Hulu, I got $100. That is 1/10 of the day rate. Okay, so that's just something that you can use as an anecdote as to what's going on there. So, but I'm going to look for these two things, and if I find them, I'm going to put them in the chat. And like I said, it's very complicated. I'm sorry that I can't give a better answer.
And just super quick is that we get gains on these residual formulas, but regretfully, it's usually pattern bargaining with WGA and DGA that go before us. So, we go in with, hey, let's go for this, but then 9 out of 10 times we get stuck with what the other two unions had negotiated.
Also, what's very important to recognize is that, let's say you did a network television show. You could get that network rerun. Then it could go into syndication, and you could get the syndication rerun. Then it could go over to cable, and you'd have a cable rerun. And then it would go over to new media, and you would get that run. Everything that is made directly for new media will always live on new media and never go to another platform. So the new media residual is critical, because you're not going to get any other use from any other platforms. So the only money that's going to be generated for that made for new media show is the new media residual. And that's why it needs so much focus. Anyway, we have recognized this for a long time. I don't believe that our opponents have. And now all of a sudden they're clamoring, saying we need to really fight for streaming residuals. We've been saying that for 12, 13, 14 years. So anyway, the whole thing is, leave the problem with the one who brung you. We've been there for a long time fighting this fight for these streaming residuals.
I just want to say that, this is one of the biggest ones to me. This is one of the biggest issues to me, this and options and exclusivity. The schedule of it, it's really important to, Ron and DJ, they understand it, but to me, conceptually, they're supposed to serve two functions. They're supposed to give a performer income in between jobs. It's a way to create stability. And the other thing is, we are entitled to continuing financial participation in the product we help create. So whatever they want to call it, I'll be pushing hard in the boardroom if I'm lucky to get it to get more. Whatever is more is more. It's not fair that concept of a residual was sort of given up at a time when they were trying to create, or they agreed to create a pension and health plan and everything else. And now somehow, because of technology, we've allowed this seepage, this like sort of quicksand vibe where the whole premise of what the residual is supposed to mean doesn't mean the same thing anymore. So I don't care what you call it. Make sure that the performer has some balance and some stability in a job that we know is infrequent, and make sure you protect our continuing participation. And, Ron talks about $100. I don't know about anybody else, but I was ready to throw my computer. It's just outrageous. It's outrageous that they can't afford, to pay the actual rate. So the schedule is one thing, but I don't want to get bogged down in the schedule. The concept has to be protected at all costs.
I just put into the chat the two charts. So if you get a chance and want to download it and look at them at your leisure.
Let's go to, we have about 6 more questions, I think, maybe 7. Christina Lamont.
Hey guys. So I'm going to give you a quick background of my situation so you have it. I've been an actor all my life, but in college I kind of got sucked into the technical theater side of things and spent 3 tours as a prop person, 1 international tour as the head carpenter. Came out to LA, thought I would get involved with Local 44, which would allow me to day play, pay all my bills so I could take the time off to go to classes, audition, and actually get my career going. That didn't happen. I've been IATSE for 18 years now, but that didn't happen. I started PAing as a way because I was doing background and I realized I wasn't making the money to be able to join SAG. I fought for 14 years to join SAG. I finally joined in January of last year, right before COVID. And one of the jobs that I thought I was going to be walking into after COVID stopped, it was going to help me get the insurance that I needed drastically, was BG coordinating on a SAG voucher, which typically makes over twice what a regular background player makes. And this is a job that has been stripped away and is no longer, I know several friends that have lost their livelihood because of this. And it was something that has been taken away from me. Yeah, I figured, Ron, you'd want to jump in here. It was something that's been taken as a source of income for me. Keep in mind, some of you know me and I have lupus as well as some other things. So insurance is one of the most important things to me. And it was something that I was so excited when I joined that I was going to get. And of course, we all saw what happened last year. So it's very frustrating that something that could have earned me not only getting me eligible, but the amount of money it's going to cost me every month because of my specialties has been stripped away. Is there a way to get that back? That's my question.
If I may, Christina, I hear what you're saying, and everyone on this Zoom can hear the pain in your voice. And I looked at the list of people that are on this Zoom, and I know that there's some other people that were in the exact same situation as you are. So I'm going to try to explain this. And if I'm dispassionate in how I tell you what's going on here, it is not because I am not incredibly sympathetic to you. Everybody who knows me knows that healthcare is one of my top priorities. It literally, the health plan helped me survive cancer twice and a bone marrow transplant, and deals with my son's issues and blah, blah, blah. This is a very difficult situation. As the chair of the National Background Actors Committee, this topic was brought forward by member-generated complaints. And we did some the best outreach that we could to affected members. Some of them came forward and spoke to us. Some of them refused to speak to us. And we engaged discussion with our contract staff and our legal staff. And what it really boiled down to is this type of work is what is called non-covered work. It is not part of our CBA, our collective bargaining agreement. And as such, when people do work under these kind of circumstances and the health plan takes contributions based on that work, not only are they in violation of the contract, but the health plan is taking on a legal liability. They are not allowed to take contributions on any member's behalf for work that is considered non-covered. The work that you did and the work that others did was incredibly valuable. There were a number of people who were of the highest caliber and provided an enormous service to the union. And it is unfortunate that there were actually some people who abused this trust and brought this problem to the fore. It had been existing under the radar because people like you did a great service and did a great job and helped people. But it got to a point where the union could not ignore that this was an issue, and the union could not allow the pension and health plan to endanger itself by taking these contributions. There isn't a person on this call who doesn't feel for you, and I know that and a subway token, gets you where you need to go. And I'm so terribly sorry that this has impacted you, especially with your health conditions. But you have to believe me when I tell you that we, and I include myself in this, I take some of the responsibility for this. We saw no other way. And I know that that's cold comfort, but that's the best I can tell you. I'm sorry.
Jolie?
I'm so moved by this whole afternoon and so incredibly charged with wanting to continue conversations personally with all of you. I have to gracefully take my leave. I apologize. I have to be somewhere in 10 minutes that I will never make it there. But I did put my email in the chat. And I adore my comrades here. Maybe that's not the right word. And I do want to continue these conversations. I would love to do this again. And as President Rosenberg said, I would love to call for a debate if that's at all possible. I know some of our UFS friends are on. Thank you for joining us today as well. If you have questions and want to continue the dialogue off of this Zoom, I'm happy to do that. Matthew has to work tomorrow. We are all very excited to have you all having joined us. I'm glad that we recorded. I'd love to make it public. This has been an amazing conversation, and I'm so sorry that I do have to go.
It's okay, Jolie. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes. You done good. We'll try and so good luck. Drive carefully where you got to go. I think everybody heard your message just now.
Okay.
So it's okay to take your leave.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And we have just a few more questions.
Wait, Matthew wanted to say something before Jolie left, I think.
No, thank you, Jolie. Thank you. No, I wanted to say to Christina that I hear you. I would love to have a conversation with you and find out some way to be able to help you. That there are so many of our members that are struggling through this difficult time. So many of our members that had to make a decision about paying their rent or buying their groceries or paying their dues. And this is a very difficult time, and I hear your emotion, and I want you to know that I hear you. And Ron gave you a kind of clinical explanation of the situation, and it's not comforting. It's not. But I would love to find some way to give you hope, and to be able to see some light in this tunnel, I hear you, Christina. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew and Ron and Christina. Okay, a few more questions. Danielle Golden.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'll make this super fast. So I'm a top performer here in the LA area.
Hey, Danielle, it's Sean. You're so quiet. Can you speak closer into the microphone, or are you blocking it with something?
No, I don't think I'm blocking it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just talk
Yes.
a little closer to it just so we can hear you better.
Okay, so anyways, I'm a stunt performer here in the LA area. Hi, Jane. Anyways, I had a quick question. I was looking over the Member First website and I was seeing the diversity, inclusivity phase of the thing. And I saw a lot of attention to performers with disability, but not enough for me in regards to diversity. Being a person of color, especially a stunt performer, is making sure that we have equal representation, especially in the stunt field. I've talked to a few people before, especially like Jane and a few others about it. And it's like, stunt coordinators are aware of all the listing sites that we have, but what are we going to do now with this new installment, if you will, in regards to making sure that that's not ignored? And then also, when it comes to the negotiating committee, are we going to actually have someone that has experience in stunts speak on our behalf? And then the last one I had is, I was kind of curious to see where you stood in adding on top of everything in regards to turnaround time or recovery time for stunt performers on set.
Emery, do you want to take it or you want me to?
Well, why don't we do some tandem? So I'll start with the global aspect of diversity, and then Jane can dial down into what membership
Beautiful.
can guarantee. So as I mentioned before, this is a very, very serious issue, not just for all of us, but specifically for me, because I am an African-American woman in this business. Years ago, before many of you were born, we were able to negotiate language in our TV theatrical contract with regard to paint downs. And for those who are unfamiliar with that, paint down is a horrific term, a practice that still unfortunately continues today, but certainly not at the rate it had prior to negotiations, that white performers or performers who are stunt performers who are not of color were able to apply prosthetics, makeup, and hair to double that of a person of color performer. So it's an appalling practice. The excuse was, well, we couldn't find performers of color, stunt performers of color who were qualified to do these stunts. And many of our own members at the time, stunt performers who happened to be SAG members, were practicing this level of discrimination that should have never been tolerated. Cut to, here we are. And in the interim of that, the SAG Legacy created a stunt performers of color glossary, a go-to guide where stunt performers of color could present themselves in an easily accessed directory. So producers and stunt coordinators and directors and actors who were looking for a stunt performer who matched our physicality could go and find members of the union who were ready and able and trained to do stunt doubling. Here we are. We still have a problem. It's inexcusable to me that in 2021 we still have this problem. Membership First will do better. We must do better. We have the determination to do better. What we have to do is enforce our contracts. What we have to do is the language is already there in our contracts. But we have a staff, and I'm generalizing, but we have a staff who is loath to take on this particular situation. It is unexcusable to me. And if I'm elected, and if Jane is elected, and if our other board members of color, and I'm hammering in on board members of color because we live it, we feel it, we see it, we will work with Jane and our other brothers and sisters who are not of color to explain to them how reprehensible it is to be told that, well, we just can't find qualified performers of color to do these stunts. Matthew said something brilliant during a one-on-one we had with a collection of young performers of color. Matthew made it very clear. If a director or the creator or the writer or the network or the studio or the stunt coordinator sees that there is a difficult stunt to be performed on the behalf of a performer of color, and they claim they cannot find that person, These stunts are created way in advance. And there is enough time to find these performers of color, and it's always been used as an excuse. And as far as I'm concerned, Jane and I and the whole membership for Slate will no longer tolerate it. And we are serious about this. And we have to have our fellow actors just as serious about this. Jane?
Boy, yeah, that's a tough act to follow there, Anne-Marie. But no, I agree with everything that Anne-Marie said. And the very first thing that we need to do is reinstate the directory. I don't know, for whatever reason, that after merger, they just stopped doing it. And now there's more stunt performers than ever that fit into this. And, you know, coordinators don't know how to find them. They need to do a better job looking for them. But why isn't the union making a directory for these coordinators? So that's the very first thing that needs to happen. And the second thing is to sit the coordinators down and have a conversation with them and let them know that they're on notice, that hand them the tool and say, we're not tolerating it anymore, and have some kind of a repercussion for if this behavior. And I mean, and it's simple fixes, but it's just, it's just why we don't have this director anymore is beyond me. So Anne-Marie said it all.
I'd like to be, if I'm on a set and I see that situation develop, I'd like to be able to call my union and notify my union that I see something like that going on that's not correct.
You absolutely should. You should call the stunt department.
Well, there is a policy that I've presented that Membership First will hopefully follow through with. As we have and should have intimacy coordinators on sets, we should have diversity coordinators on set. It should not be the obligation of the actor to bring this to the attention of the union or of the producer or of the UPM. There should be a diversity coordinator on the set where the talent can go to that individual and that individual handles the situation. Let us be actors and actresses and performers. Let other people deal with that. But I truly believe that Membership First is determined, and it's not just in the stunt community, stand-ins too. I cannot tell you how many times I am not afforded, even though I have a lovely actress who has been my stand-in for quite a while. Sometimes I'm denied that actress and I am provided a white male just because of my height. And the responsibility is on me. I just don't show up to the set. I do not leave my makeup room but I can do that. Not every actor can do that. It should be the responsibility of the Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA, to enforce the language we already have. That means penalties. Even if it's our own members who are stunt coordinators, that means penalties.
And then to go back on my other question in regards to turnover, because that's another big issue within our stunt world, is having enough turnover time between shooting days for recovery for one, and to factor in traveling as well. So I don't want to go into all the details because I know Jane and David definitely know all about that stuff. But just to reiterate it, so overall, we're pushing safety basically. We need
to Danielle, Danielle, what I would recommend for you is to show up when we start the W&Ws and have that be one of when we have the stunt caucus, is to have that be one of your recommendations or proposals. And, if you want, we can sit down and kind of draft how you exactly want that to look like.
Perfect too. And real quick, I just want to throw out there for any of the candidates on here. Jane and a few others know I have a stunt performer hangout on the Clubhouse app. I definitely want to extend the invitation to any candidates on here that want to speak their piece and share who they are and share their views to come on, especially you, David, because I know you extensively from Solidarity and stuff like that. Would love to have you on. If you guys ever want to come and speak, we meet Tuesdays at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. It's an open forum for anybody and everyone.
What's it called?
It's called Stunt Performer Hangout.
Yeah, I'm going to be on it Tuesday night.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you for that. Matthew always talks about how turnaround doesn't just benefit us, it benefits the whole crew. But I've learned so much in the last couple of years about the needs of stunt people for everything, with the idea of retirement and how much faster they burn their bodies out, and so many. I'm glad to be. Someone said that we're the stunt party. I'm happy that that's the case. All right, we've got somebody I know pretty well. All of us know pretty well. A sitting board member who's up again, Joe Dangeria.
All right. Hi, guys. So as chair of the board replacement committee in Los Angeles, I want to attest to the information that Matthew shared earlier about his attendance. So those figures that he gave were absolutely 100% correct. That was a gotcha question from Ben Whitehair, even though he didn't ask it directly. And I asked Ben Whitehair the following: if anyone can deliver this question, you are questioning Matthew's attendance. I want you to question Yvette Nicole Brown's attendance, who's running for the local board as president of the local board. Ask her the same question that you asked Matthew. I think you'll get a surprising different answer. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Naomi Watson.
Good afternoon. My name's Naomi. I'm a background and stand-in actor in LA. I only do background and stand-in, so I don't, have any of the conflicts that some people do in that case. I'm just wondering, I know it's been touched on a little bit, but I've been to several of the W&Ws over the last few years for background actors, and we come up with a whole list of things that we would like to see. It's a very long list generally, but it gets brought down a little bit. And then all of it, basically what it comes down to is, though, that most of the things we're told are non-mandatory. Just about everything we have on our list is non-mandatory. Now, if everything we have on our list is non-mandatory, how are we going to get anything to change? My second question is with contracts, and another issue that we have is we go to SAG with a claim and we're told we need to negotiate that on set. Now, background, we have nothing to negotiate on set with. If they say, we want you to do this, and we say, no, I don't think I should be doing that unless you pay me a stunt contract, or I get this or I get that, blah, blah, blah. They go, forget it, and go to the next person. So to negotiate on set doesn't work for background actors. We have no leverage. So how do we get things put into our contracts that we don't have to negotiate on set? Like, things need to be standard so that we don't have to do that. Thank you.
So if I may, there's two parts to this, obviously. And the first part is actually what you expressed was not accurate.
Not good.
The non-mandatory subject of bargaining does not apply to the majority of the things that we ask for. It applies primarily to expanding our coverage to the rest of the country. And if you want to, we can go into that at length at a time when we have more time. But that's really what that's about. What happens in the negotiating process, in our developing of the proposal process, the W&W process, is that, and I can tell you from being the chair of the National Background Committee and having done 4 negotiating committees, our group brings the largest number of proposals of any group, and that's largely because we have the largest number of needs. And what happens is you prioritize them, and then we go to a group, we prioritize them amongst ourselves, and then we go to the larger group. And we are now in a group with principal actors, stunt performers, dancers, singers, and everybody all wants something. And we end up negotiating amongst ourselves in a sense onto what's going to go into the package. And I would say to you that the only way that we are going to get more things into the package is by finding ways to get our union brothers and sisters who have more favorable terms currently into their contracts to say, you know what, we need to put more of our firepower on some of these things. So this is about that particular answer has to do with a lot of our internal relationship of how we put things out there. The second part of it is that in the negotiating process, again, we are fighting against the AMPTP who don't want to give us anything. And we need strong negotiators who are going to fight really hard. And we need the commitment of our fellow negotiators, which we frankly have not had in negotiations, people who are willing to say, this is where we're going to draw a line. We need people who are going to do that. That's how that makes the change. Now, the second thing you're talking about is another thing. If you're asked to do a stunt, actual stunt, you must be put on a stunt contract. It's not a question of negotiating for yourself. It's not a question of trying to fight for it. That is our contract. And I know that Jane and a number of other people feel very strongly about this. And if the union sees what you did, and if they refuse to give you a contract, and the union, you make a claim, and the union will watch the dailies. And if you did a stunt, you're getting paid for a stunt. There's no negotiating on your part. Now, there's other things that are negotiated for. And these are things that actually, unfortunately, are fallen is a little bit similar to what I said to Christina. There is work that you could be asked to do that is not covered by our CBA. For instance, if you're a stand-in and they ask you to do lines, that's nowhere in our contract. There's only in one of our after contracts is there a place where there's provisions for stand-ins doing lines. If they want you to do lines, you can ask for more money. And if they don't give you more money, you can say no. And if they retaliate against you for that, you can bring that to the union. Now, again, you are right. We are the lowest on the totem pole. Nobody wants to make waves. And everybody's afraid to get blacklisted. But if we all stand together and we all do it, we can try and end the practice. The other thing in terms of just stunts is about hazard pay. Hazard pay is we have things in our contract about hazard pay, but we have been unable to get a real clear definition about what a hazard is, where the line ends for hazard and where stunt begins. The bottom line is, do not do anything ever that you think is unsafe for yourself. And if you are willing to do something that you think is going to be more taxing than being a nondescript background, ask for more money. And if they don't give it to you, tell them to get somebody else to do it. They're not going to send you home. They're going to get somebody else to stand on that roof or whatever it is that they're asking you to do. So I hope that that's helpful. I know it's probably not the answer you wanted, but that's how it goes here. Yes.
The lowest on the totem pole. What contribution does background contribute to the union? What percentage?
In terms of dollars or in terms of work days?
Dollars. I mean,
I'll tell you, it's not insignificant. What's really more significant is the number of days of people that are doing this. Background performers perform an enormous number of the work person days in our union. And we all know that shows can't exist with that background. And I just want to throw one last plug.
That's the point that I wanted to make. And what do you think would help? Do you think a membership first advocating for a guaranteed national board seat would help?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just want to throw one last plug. If you haven't seen it yet, look at this clip that Ryan Reynolds put out from Free Guy, where he is showing you about some of the stuff that Background did on his movie. I have to say that was really quite lovely that he did that. Okay, thank you.
It's important to note, Matthew, what you were just saying is that Membership First has been promoting having Background have a guaranteed seat in the board for a very long time. And again, it's another difference between these that Unite vehemently opposes it.
There are times when I think the background performers should strike against their own union. They should they should organize and strike against SAG-AFTRA.
I learned something in one of our town halls because I think Ron's point is well taken to me, meaning on the set, it feels like you're the lowest man on the totem pole in terms of the amount of respect and courtesy you're paid by the rest of the production. And I heard this phrase of a background bill of rights that I think should be put on every door of every studio or every, AD's wagon that just talks about, the humanity of background artists. I mean, I any number of times I've been, working and the vibe was, don't interact with the background. It's like, I mean, I don't honor that. I interact with human beings the way I want to, but just that concept of like, it's just, I think it takes a concerted effort on behalf of people to acknowledge the agency of background artists on this set. Because
and one last thing. Principal performers should be willing, able, and ready to go on strike. The onus should not solely be on background performers, the principal performers.
I've been one of the principal
should
performers.
Be prepared in negotiations to stay.
I've been one of the principal performers to advocate for people. And what I assess is a lot of people don't know. They don't know the issues. They're insulated. It might be right in front of them, but they just don't get it. So finding ways to
they choose not to get it.
Yeah, well, you put some Bill of Rights thing right in front of them, and they'll have to get it.
Let's jump to the next question.
Sorry, yeah, we have 2 questions left. Sonia Vakian.
Yeah, we have actually 3 because Charles Gemmell is in between Sonia and Pete. So we got that. And so, and Sonia is this the Sonia who's in the Michigan local? We talked to you in Solidarity a while ago. It was so fun. So I'm so excited to see you on here.
Hi. Yes, it is.
Awesome. Hey, Sonia.
How you doing?
Awesome.
I am an independent member of the Michigan board. I agree and disagree with things on both sides. Because my primary interest is doing what's best for the members, period. I don't care who says it's good or bad. I look at all the facts and decide and try to stick up and use my voice for the membership in general. I have a couple of concerns with you guys that I would like for you to understand. You talk about truthful and transparent. We had a Michigan meeting with the person you are backing for president for Michigan last week, which I was on. And I know of 6 people that were kicked off and not even allowed to join by him because he didn't know what they were going to say or ask, and he was afraid of it. He also is a person who has never come to a WW meeting. He's never come to a membership meeting. He's never worked with us whatsoever. And he's telling you guys stuff that is incorrect about how he's working to get new incentives for Michigan. Well, we've been joined with IATSE and with the Teamsters and AFL-CIO. And we have been working for a couple of years on that with the Michigan government, who right now is a Republican government, and they're not so keen on it. But we are happy to say that we're about to make some announcements that's going to make everybody happy. But we've been working on that. He's gone off and done stuff on his own to get us discounts at restaurants and stuff. That's not what our membership is looking for. And I'm disappointed that you guys are backing this guy so vehemently.
Sonia, I just want to clarify. You're talking about a local president of the Michigan local, not our national president, Matthew.
No, he is running for the Michigan local. This is somebody who I don't even know. I do know a friend of his who ran last time and lost, was defeated. And one of the reasons that he lost is both of them actually filmed things, and they filmed things with non-union people. So it's hard to look to you for leadership if you are not familiar with the people you are promoting to be leaders. Sean knows, he heard from me. I'm about members. I'm about the membership. I've been a member for over 30 years. And it concerns me because it makes me think maybe you're not doing some homework to find out who you're pushing in our group. Yes, our president leans a little more towards the other side, but he's a great guy. He's done amazing things for the Michigan membership. And frankly, if it came between party and membership, he will always be on the side of the membership. That is a problem for me. Also, calling us hobbyists is also, you say you want to get us all together and we're all members, and then you're calling us hobbyists.
Who said hobbyists?
Matthew.
When did Matthew ever say that you're a hobbyist?
He said that the people at the local and stuff are just hobbyists.
Never said that, Matthew.
You've used that word before, Matthew.
Yeah, but he wasn't talking, he wasn't characterizing, he was talking about what happens when, Matthew, she's asking the context that you use the word hobbyists in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The reason I moved was because I've got a poor internet connection. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but you guys keep coming in and out. I'm not hearing what this young lady from Michigan is saying.
Thank you for the young lady part.
The call. There was a couple of things that was brought up, but the issue at the moment is, what do you consider a hobbyist? Or do you use the phrase hobbyist earlier? And can you amplify your answer?
I'm sorry, I don't remember how I used hobbyist.
I'm sorry.
In a previous context.
Matthew was talking about how the industry refers to us as hobbyists and not professionals. Matthew never used that word to denote or describe any branch, any local, any performer. This is what the industry is creating, is promulgating, and is forcing us into. Because our streaming residuals, they are wheedling, is forcing us to have other jobs in order to survive. That is not the impression of Matthew, and he has never referred to any performer as a hobbyist.
Well, I'm sorry, I heard something else, and frankly, I can't imagine that anybody in this business would call Mr. Modine a hobbyist. Nobody would.
Let's just make sure the record is crystal clear. Matthew Modine never referred to any of us, or especially out in the locals, as hobbyists. What he was saying is that if we don't start getting a residual thing in order and our revenue streams in order, all of us are going to become hobbyists.
Yeah. The degradation in pay ends up treating you as though you're a hobbyist by not valuing your work as a professional.
I will accept your explanation of that. And the other thing I would like to understand more, and this is for the over 30 years I've been a member, more than half of our membership, a majority of our membership, doesn't ever qualify for medical. And all these years, it's been hard for me to understand when everybody fights about the medical, they never talk about the majority of us. In 30 years, I have never been able to get it. I work on sets in the crew. I've done castings. I do anything I can do to make a living in this business. And unfortunately, in Michigan, we don't get unemployment either. I know LA is set up differently. California is set up differently. We are gig workers, and they don't see that as being workers. So my question is, how can we address the membership?
It's going to be
not available. Okay.
It's going to be even harder now for you to qualify, because if you were over 40 and had 10 vested years, you could get health insurance for $13,000. That has now been raised to $25,950. If you were any performer in the union and you earned $18,040, you could have qualified for Plan 2 insurance, which was just a little less benefits than what our Plan 1 insurance was. And that is now $25,950. So one of the benefits of being a union member is, yes, to qualify for health care. And those thresholds, you want to make them as low as possible to give a benefit to as many people as possible that is financially feasible. So,
But also keep in mind, it has to be union covered work.
Correct. So
under our
Absolutely.
contract.
But in Michigan, like I said, I'm 65 now and I'm on Medicare. I can't afford to get any extras on my Medicare because the union doesn't qualify me. And in Michigan, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 95% of our membership doesn't even make the lowest number that it used to be to get medical.
Yeah, Sonia, this is Sean Sharma, because we've had I've given 4 minutes because it's so important that you guys have this discussion, especially with your concerns about, whoever Membership First is supporting in Michigan. So I would love to facilitate a conversation for you guys, but right now, just to be respectful of the time limit, can we connect outside of here and make sure you can get a full conversation?
Absolutely, anytime.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Sonia.
Take care, Sean.
Sean, you said there was somebody before Pete?
Yeah, Charles Gemmel from New York.
Okay, hi, I didn't see his name on there. Hi, Charles.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, I wrote this out on the chat room, so I'm just going to read it. What is Membership for an Ideal Slate going to do about the new election committee rules, and I'm sure the California election rules, that are in violation of the DOL rules for observing the counting of ballots by Zoom rather than observing in person? If there are more than 50 people in the room opening the ballots, the candidates should have observers, and there's no reason that some candidate observers shouldn't be in the room to observe the counting and the election machine tests, which start before the test. The post office is an open public building, and there's no reason candidates have to be virtually observed the picking up of the ballots. And one more thing is, when Alan Brosenberg and Bill Daniels ran with us back in the day, they came to New York and they really supported us and they won. I feel some support, but I'm not sure we're getting all the support that we got in the past. So I would like to remind you that that's what happened. And then I want to know who that healthcare insurance actuary was, because that was the dumbest looking man I ever saw in my life in that Bill Mazur video. Who was that guy, and who said he was qualified to talk about our health plan?
Supposedly, he is a well-respected actuary, and that's all I know.
That's what they say. I don't think he's a well-respected. I know lots of actuaries. I never saw anybody look that incompetent in a meeting.
Thank you, Charles.
All right, that's all I have to say. I'm done. I couldn't believe what I was watching when that happened.
Charles, I know that Matthew, who lives in New York or spends a lot of time in New York, has interacted.
No, he's been in New York, but you need to concentrate, because a lot of the voters are here in New York.
Yeah.
A lot of voters, and you win or lose in New York. I mean, Michigan is good and all the rest of the state is good, but New York, you really have to watch out what's going on here, because they have a very, very strong USAN group, and they will do anything, and I mean anything, to win an election. In fact, keep us from watching the ballot counting. It's not a good thing. The Department of Labor, I've been there many times. They can't do that.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day. I got to go now. I'm talking to my daughter walking her dog in LA.
All right, we have our final speaker and questioner in Pete Antico. Pete, hey there.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So, and I want to speak about questions about the healthcare and the pension. In regard to the negotiations with Netflix, I believe if we would have negotiated background, it would have cost the producers about $5 million. I think it would have been a net gain to our pension and health over 3 years of about $30 million. When both sides negotiate, we have a member side and a producer side that are trustees on our on our health plan. And David White, Ray Rodriguez, Duncan Crabtree, and Mike Wisniewski are on our team as member trustees. And for 2 years, they disclosed that they knew that our health plan was in trouble. But
Pete, I'm going to ask you not to mention members' names, please.
So I think it's very appropriate in this time because that's the truth and the truth should come out. So what happened here was, according to Title V of the LMRDA, which is federal labor law, the people that work or are employed by SAG-AFTRA have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for the best interests of the members first and foremost. And then those same members are negotiating on a health plan. They also have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for the best interests of the health plan, which is a conflict of interest. Carol Lombardini, who is the head of the producers of the AMPTP, also sits on the health plan board. She has a fiduciary responsibility to negotiate the best deal that she can with the AMPTP. And so where do their duties lie? The fact is, if she negotiates a bad contract, then it damages the health plan. So she's negating her duty to one or the other. So I find this, troublesome, and a conflict, because if our members aren't protecting us and giving us the proverbial negotiating gun in our hand to protect our health plan, this makes no sense to me. And the last point I want to bring up is that they gave us all a discount or a deferment on our healthcare premiums for the first 6 months, which is $23 million. And I don't know why I thought this was financially responsible, because that $23 million could have helped take care of healthcare for the people and the seniors that got kicked off of this plan. So none of these things financially make sense to me. And the last thing is, sorry, one more thing is in 215, SAG gave a stipend to AFTRA's health plan workers because it was split earnings and they couldn't make health care, but AFTRA never participated. So SAG is not allowed to subsidize another union's health plan by law. And we did because AFTRA never participated.
Yeah, Pete, we're almost a minute over, brother.
I got it. I'm just setting some groundwork and I'm finished. I wanted to put some context into how poorly this is run, and it's shame on our negotiating teams and our opposition for not standing for seniors and for not paying attention to their fiduciary responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. All right. I think we have arrived at there's so much. There's so much.
Well, we also have a bunch of questions that were submitted to the chat that we didn't get to. So, perhaps what we can do is we can, take these questions and we can create written answers, and we can, make sure that the members get, the answers that they need to these different things. So if your question by chat was not answered, then I'll make sure that you get that answer from the team. It just may not be right now, just because we're, 2.5 hours past, or was it 3.5 hours? We started this at 3.5 hours. Right.
Right. And you want to be able to speak to every point and answer every issue. But I think ultimately this was, as is Membership First, kind of reputation, a wide open forum. People were able to ask whatever they want, express themselves however they want, to hear directly from the candidates. And so I'm, for one, am just happy to have gone down this way. A last moment, each of you. Jane?
I just want to say thanks, Sean. You did a bang up job tonight.
Sean Sharma was the bad guy on the clock.
Well, for everyone that made this possible and did it. Matthew, always great to see you. Emery, likewise. Everyone that stayed on for, this for 3.5 hours or whatnot. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you for engaging. Spread the word. It's your union. Tell us what you want.
Thank you, Jane. Anne-Marie.
Just excited to be back. Very proud to be part of this team, especially with Matthew and Jolie. I think I think they will be the new normal, and that's what we need. So very excited. And Sean's, thank you so much, and it's an honor to be invited back to play.
Thank you, Emery. David Jolliff.
It's always an honor to serve all of you. It's really, I'm so honored to do it. And I hope you guys realize and appreciate the way that we run town hall meetings. And this is how we will hold them if we have leadership at the union. They won't be webinars where you're talked at. They will always be in this type of format where you can interchange ideas with us. Well, thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, everyone who showed up.
Thank you. And thanks to Ron Ostro, too, who provided some great insight. Thank you for your expertise, Ron, and obviously Sheryl Lee and Jody, Sheryl Lee Ralph and Jody Long and Jolie Fisher. And Matthew, why don't you bring us home?
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for organizing this, everybody that was involved in the organization. Thank you to everybody who logged in and listened. I don't know if there are people that were on the fence or curious. I hope that you've heard our hearts and our intention. That there's a lot of hateful things that get said, accusations that get made, and I think that if you listen to us speak, you see that all we're trying to do is do the best we can for our union, and that's all we will attempt to do. Should you choose to vote for us in these very important positions in our union, so I thank you. If you were undecided and now you're going to give me your vote, I appreciate that, and I'm grateful, and thank you for your Sunday. Go enjoy yourselves and have a nice dinner. I apologize about the internet. As I mentioned, I'm in Albuquerque and it wasn't working in the room. I had to come over to the office and I couldn't hear the young lady from Michigan, her questions, what she was talking about. If I misspoke, I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anybody. If I did take a misstep, it's my sincerest apologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. No, she understood. It was a good clarification point about what the nature of being a hobbyist is, and you spoke to it well, and we all, I think, tried to address it, and I think we did. Everyone, thank you so much for your attention, for your interest, for your willingness to participate this far. Membership First, we've got that wonderful flyer that hopefully you have with your ballot. So you go through. If not, it's on membershipfirst.com. There you go. There's your flyer that shows us there. My picture's on there too. Sean asked if you can vote for me for national and local.
Sean, before you wrap it up, just one quick thing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't want to stop you from speaking, but just before you say goodnight.
Go for it, Sean.
Oh, well, we're lucky to have Olga Wilhelmine, who's the national board member from the New Orleans local on here, who has been, it's her passion to make sure everybody gets their unclaimed residuals. And she found that many of the members who are on this call actually are owed residuals. So you've got money just sitting there waiting for you. You just need to claim it. So Olga just wanted to make that point. Olga?
I just sort of want to make a point. I am some people, and I hope they didn't think that they were getting like that weird sort of spam thing coming from somewhere. It's not. It's just while I was here, I was just from the names that I could find was just sort of looking in the database, and I did find a bunch of names, and some of y'all DM'd. Some of you messaged me back. Some of you didn't. I hope we will connect. It might be you, and if it is you, you are probably likely owed money from SAG-AFTRA. Money from what they call the Unclaimed Residuals Fund, which is money where they claim they cannot find you. So they just put it into this fund where they store it somewhere. Well, you know what? Waylon Jennings, I just found him tonight as well. So it's, let's see if we can find these people. So anyway, I did DM some people tonight. I don't know, maybe there's a way, Sean, since you recorded this, I might be able to find a way, because I don't want to impose on anyone's privacy. This is a public database, but I do understand, and a lot of people don't understand, that the way that this database is organized is actually really complicated to find yourself. And there's a lot of misspellings. And if you happen to have a loan out company or some other things going on, or it's misspelled and you have a middle name or something, don't necessarily be found right away. So I had to do a little doctoring around and was able to find some people and some others that I could not find. But anyway, the point is that there is an unclaimed residuals fund, money that is owed to our members that SAG-AFTRA is holding on to and using for their purposes. And for us, all of us actually in this group, because we have all actually been working on this for the last 1.5 years, especially last year, trying to connect people with their unclaimed residuals.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Olga. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, just want to make sure everybody was aware not only of the Unclaimed Residuals Fund, but the fact that Olga spends her time trying to find people their money. So thank you so much, Olga.
Yes, and it's not a weird lottery spam thing. It's not. It's like I'm just like
I found money from my dad, my 91-year-old dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, did you know you have this money here? So thank you very much for that, Olga. It's a nice birthday present for people who sat through the town hall. Now they can go find money they didn't realize that was still available to them. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your for being here, and we'll look forward to your active participation in voting. And we request respectfully your votes for the membership first ticket. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you, guys.